Wow. This is my favorite movie about Egyptian mythology,
Yeah,
Frozen.
I mean, Prince of Egypt's got, the just the motif, but this is so like pure mythology, all about the gods and the goddesses of ancient
Pyramids.
Egypt. I mean, Ra's in this. Um, this is a
Yeah,
great bit, Cullen.
great, but we are so funny.
uh,
Welcome back to Not My Fantasy, the podcast where we watch and review fairy tale and fantasy films and the lore behind them. I'm Cullen,
and I'm Hannah.
and today we have a very special guest, a coworker of mine and animation extraordinaire, Mar.
Hello, I'm Mar. You probably don't know me. Not a lot of people do, but you soon will find out that I'm a very, very amusing human being.
Yes, and we learned before we even started recording, literally has lived Frozen.
I
Like, come
have, I
on.
Yes.
have. I was in the cast of a stage musical in Frozen in Brazil when I used to live in Brazil. And I did a whole season. So like 3 months of every weekend. Frozen, 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 Frozen. I couldn't stand the songs for a long time. Luckily for me, I did the Portuguese version. So the English versions are still
Oh
very
yeah.
safe and sacred in my brain.
Yeah. That's actually a good
Yeah.
point. Because, I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to music, but like, I think it's been so long since I've seen this movie that I can now appreciate Let It Go again. Like, I've had the distance I needed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, society, like every YouTuber in existence covered Let It Go. And like, yeah.
I mean, when it came out, I was a kid in 2013,
Mm,
basically. So I got to grow with it. And
mhm.
now I have a whole new meaning and appreciation besides
Yeah.
powers and ice.
Ice powers.
Ice powers. We love ice powers. So we're talking about Frozen 2013. We've all seen this movie. We usually ask, have we seen this movie? We've all seen
Yes.
it.
Well, the thing I want to talk about really quick is like the only thing I remember about a trailer for this movie was Olaf. And I was like, I'm not going to see that movie, Disney. No, thank you. And then my cousin's like, no, it's a princess movie. I was like, and then I watched it. I was stunned. I was like, oh my God, this was good. And like that trailer sucked, whatever I saw. So I was pleasantly surprised. I had zero expectations and they were blown away.
I do remember seeing more things about Demi Lovato covering the song Let It Go than of
Mm,
Frozen. That was kind of mad when I went to the movies and it wasn't Demi Lovato singing.
yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't Dina Menzel, which is fine. And also, I watched it in Portuguese, so it wasn't going to be any of them anyways. I was just
Yeah.
delusional.
So in Portuguese, is the movie called The Snow Queen?
No, it's called Frozen.
Frozen? Because I know like in French it's like Reine de Neige, like
It
it's
they didn't translate the title in Brazil. It's still called Frozen, but it has like a subtitle,
Mm.
mhm.
subtitle, like an actual small one. Let me see if I find it.
Yeah, because that was a thing in like the Tangled era, was they're like they wanted to market it more to like a gender neutral audience. So
Mm.
instead of calling like Tangled Rapunzel, they called it Tangled. And instead of calling
Interesting.
Frozen the Snow Queen, they called it Frozen. So I was very excited for this movie because I grew up with the Snow Queen story. Like it's
Mhm.
long. So my mom would read it to me in portions, like if I was sick or something. So it was
Mm.
like a special occasion. Snow Queen was not an
Interesting.
everydayer.
Mhm.
It's long. I'm gonna be honest. I had to skim it because I did watch that video. And then I was like, okay, I'll read through the story. And then I was like, oh wow, this is a lot longer than I
It's
thought.
long.
Because you were
Yeah.
like, it's not
Yeah,
like long, long, but it's like long. And I was like, oh God, I did
Yeah.
not plan for this.
no, I was just gonna say that it's a long story, but like I kind of have this thing about like when stories are translated from other languages and then they try to mimic the
Mm,
times and the language, and it's
Mm,
like, why?
yeah.
Weirds. Why are you
yeah,
making this harder for everyone else? Because I mean, English is my second language, so it's already like hard for me if you use hard English.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So I
true.
really appreciated the video. And I did found it was called Frozen, translating the translation, uh Frozen Adventure. but like in Portuguese. So it was like Frozen in English, and then A Frozen Adventure in Portuguese.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But not the Snow Queen, no.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, it
A
is.
Frozen Adventure is, I mean, it's accurate.
That
There's a
is what
lot
the
of
movie
snow and
is.
ice. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it works.
Yeah. I mean, I
It's
think.
catchy in Portuguese, you know, it's like Uma aventura congelante. It's very
Oh,
catchy.
Ooh,
yeah.
yeah. I think it is probably one of the longest fairy tales that's not like considered a novel, right? Like it's just shy of being a novella.
Yeah,
Like
I was gonna say.
it's pretty long.
Because also, like, I read it and it's just a scroll. It's just one single page. It's not like I'm like, oh, I can see the end. Like, there's like,
Yeah.
oh, I have 5 pages left. It's like I'm still scrolling.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the structure of that story. But right now we're still talking about Frozen. I saw it opening night, so because I was excited, and I saw there was a trailer that had the I know it all ends tomorrow, that part, and like I was like, boom, I'm sold. And I listened to the Demi Lovato cover all the time. I was like so excited, and I was like telling all my friends in college because I think I was a sophomore in college when this movie came out. I was like, we need to see this movie.
Yeah, that sounds
And
right.
they were all like, I don't know, like the Snowman movie, and I was like, no, it's gonna be really good.
Okay, so I wasn't the only one who was like,
No,
this is about a snowman and a reindeer, right?
yeah, and
Okay, good.
I saw it with my sibling and a couple of my friends. Like I got a few people to see it, and everyone was like, oh, that was like amazing. And then all those people that didn't want to see the movie with me then saw it in theaters like 5 separate times because they were obsessed.
Yeah.
And I
It
was like,
became a huge cultural thing, not even just
yeah,
for children, like for adults.
it's truly a cultural reset. Like
Yeah.
we call a lot of things
Yeah.
that, but Frozen is like just a game changer.
Yeah. I mean, it
And
invented feminism.
it
Like,
did invent
It
feminism.
is. It is a game changer. And I do talk about that in my thesis because
oh yeah, a scholar researcher of Disney
Oh,
princesses.
yeah.
Like, we have like
So-
the best guest here today.
in college, my thesis for graduation, I tried to prove that the Disney princess was a genre with a very recognizable iconography, and it evolved with the times too. So because
Yeah.
every genre since the beginning to, and when it stays as a relevant, it feeds off of culture and what the society, especially if it's a popular genre, society's beliefs. And when it doesn't reflect it, it tends to fade away. And when it does, it also tends to influence towards that belief. So it's kind of movie genres is both alienated and informed by society, and Disney is like a perfect example of that. And Frozen was a great mark to defining an evolution of the princess genre, because while we have the eras of the Disney princess, we never had one that poked fun on its own tale, on its own tropes. And Frozen does it very clearly with the Love and Open Doors song, where it pokes fun on it and it tries to change it, even though it still uses most of the tropes. It twitches and switches it, but it pokes fun, which is like there is this film scholar who studied genre a long time ago. Cannot remember his name for the life of me, but like I remember his quoting saying that a genre evolves, and you notice the evolution of a genre when it makes fun of its previous like set iterations.
Yeah.
And then Frozen did that. I was like, okay, I can prove that this is a genre.
I mean,
that's
Frozen
awesome.
is the cabin in the woods of the Disney princess genre.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it kind of is.
It was aware of what he was doing.
Yeah, because like the big one, I think I even pointed it out in my notes, was like when they're like, oh, they must be beautiful. And then she was like ugly sleeping. They cut to that. I was like, wow, genius. I love this. The princesses, they're just like us.
So I'm a Frozy. I also saw Frozen on Broadway.
Frozy.
I saw it with the original cast. There were 3 technical difficulties during the performance I saw, so that like paused the show.
Wasn't this like right after it came out too?
Yeah, it was like a few months after it came out, like a month or 2.
They were still in tech.
And like they had crazy, like they had icebergs and shit. So I'm like,
Yeah.
it's
You're like,
fine.
this is acceptable.
But it did kind of take me out of the show. And then people were like texting, and I'm like, we paid like $75 for these tickets. Like I know for
Yeah.
Broadway that's not that expensive, but like for me as a grad
75.
student, that was like. But I was like,
Mhm.
I
I
have to go to
mean,
New York. I have to go to Broadway while I live on the East
I
Coast.
won the
So
lottery twice for Frozen. So
Oh my gosh.
I went, but and it was. I mean, I didn't have any tactical difficulties, but I did notice that they changed slightly of
Mm.
the story, which
yeah,
Broadway tends to do because they want to add more songs and songs that make sense and all of those things. What I didn't expect was that they did change slightly the change of the tropes and the adding of the mom in the stage production
yeah.
kind of threw me out of it. I was like, wait, this is different.
In
This
the
is
stage production, the trolls are like the hidden folk, and the
yeah.
mom is one of them, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of hints to the mom's different backstory in Frozen, similar but different backstory in Frozen 2,
I
which will be
know.
another episode.
And
Um,
I was just like, okay, so is this stage production fits the lore? Doesn't fit the lore? What is canon? You
Yeah.
know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard. Like different iterations of like Little Mermaid on Broadway will have different like
Mhm.
origins for Ursula. Like Disney canon is nebulous. Yeah.
To say the
Uh,
least.
at least. I just I love Frozen. I saw the sequel right when it came out. I cried during the Christmas short before Coco that everyone else hated.
See, and I never saw it. I still haven't seen it, I don't think, because I went to Coco kind of late in the game, and that was after everyone had freaked out and they'd taken it off, and because we went right into Coco, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. There's
I
no one
think
of those shorts.
it would have been appreciated if it was just like a half-hour time slot on ABC. Like that's
Yeah,
what should have been. It's way too long for like a before the movie short.
yeah.
Uh
I loved it. It was funny.
yeah, I loved it and it was heartwarming and I was going through a lot at the time and I cried and my cousin's cousin, an 8-year-old girl sitting next to me was kind of like, "Is this man okay?"
The
Wow, judged
answer
by
is
eight.
no, and let me be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the thing about Frozen is because it was very overexposed, because Disney was like, this is a moneymaker. People, it's kind of cool to hate on Frozen now, but you don't become like that box office icon and cultural reset if you're not a good movie. And like, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I was there. I saw you all simp for this movie. World, like I saw it. So don't
Don't
come at
backpedal.
me. Yeah,
No
and don't be like,
backpedaling.
the songs aren't even good. I'm like, excuse me. It's okay if you like other songs better, but you can't say they're not good.
Yeah, no, they're all
And
catchy.
we have to remember that it made the fame that he did before TikTok. So without
True.
Yeah.
TikTok's help, which in
Yeah.
at that time, yeah, we had Instagram, we had Facebook, but like none of those platforms offered the same reach that TikTok does. Today's like
Mhm.
Encanto, which was made like it was
Mhm.
made by TikTok, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also going through a tough semester and the Frozen soundtrack got me through. Also, the voice of Oaken is someone I regularly interact with at work. It was written and directed by Jennifer Lee with Chris Buck. It was the first movie we're watching that was written and directed by a woman,
Mm.
and the first one we are watching in this podcast with a female protagonist.
Yeah.
Two of
Wow.
them.
Look at us.
Two of
We
them,
so wait, we've only done one non-animated movie so far.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean it's pretty good. Episode 4, already with the female protagonist. I mean, feminism is real.
is real. So I mean, I copy and pasted the Wikipedia notes of like
That's
how much
cool.
money this made, but it earned 400.7 million in North America, estimated 880 million in other countries. Um, Profit over
One
400 million. Fifth highest grossing film, highest grossing animated film, the highest grossing 2013 film, the third highest grossing Walt Disney Pictures release, and the eighth highest grossing film distributed by Disney. Earned 110.6 million worldwide. It's opening weekend.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Because I think about that trailer I saw and I'm like, who would go see this?
Yeah, it was
But
huge.
like word of mouth. Word of
Yeah.
mouth is very popular.
Did it premiere around Christmas time-ish, or my memory just failed me?
Thanksgiving,
Oh yeah.
Because I remember it was like end of year, and I thought it was gonna be a Christmas movie, which everyone goes to see kind of anyway. But then when I saw, I was like, wait, this is Princess, and then like good representation if you don't think too much about it.
I mean, Disney movies do tend to come out around Thanksgiving, the animated ones. Because Tangled did, Encanto did. Moana was summer, I think.
I don't have Thanksgiving Brazil, so that's not a mark in my mind that we could go straight to Christmas.
Yeah. So Frozen was they had tried to adapt it many times since Walt is one of their like Snow White did well, Cinderella did well, what other stories we got? And Snow Queen, they're like, there's a lot going on here. Like Rapunzel was also very much shelved because like, well, she's in a tower the whole time. Like, what's gonna happen? So it was put on hold for a while. The Snow Queen is by Danish fairy tale author Hans Christian Andersen, the man that was a hot mess for weeks at the house of Charles Dickens.
What he's known for.
Yeah. He's a queer, very Christian writer. He wrote original fairy tales. So sometimes he would adapt folk tales, but his stories, while pulling from folklore, come from like his mind, as opposed to the Brothers Grimm or something. So you'll get a lot of like weird religious struggles and trauma just like on the page.
Gay.
Conservatives really hate Frozen. Not all conservatives, but I remember when it came out, there was like this Catholic newspaper my parents liked. And I got my parents to watch the movie and they liked it, but it was saying it was bad and subversive and like secretly gay. And but here's my thing is I don't think you could have adapted the Jesus-y story that was the Snow Queen into a movie. I don't think conservatives would have liked it even that. Because the girl saves a boy.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say that.
Yeah, and this movie in a way saved me from the alt-right pipeline. Probably not, but like in a way it did, because people were talking about Jordan Peterson, and I saw he was doing it. He was talking about Sleeping Beauty, and I click on the video, and he's like, I just really hate like Frozen and like such filth, and I'm like, you like again like because he was like upset that there wasn't like a prince saving the day. I'm like, the prince in the Snow Queen story is like barely in it. Like I don't know why. Like you obviously don't know the story that you're talking about. And then he proceeded to talk about in the original story of Sleeping Beauty, and he starts describing the 1959 animated film that literally pulls its music from a ballet that's an older version of the story.
Right.
So I'm like,
he was saying that like that Disney movie was the original story.
Yeah.
Got it. So he was wrong.
And I'm like, oh, so you're stupid. And like, here's the thing. You don't need to know that.
Not researched.
Yeah, like you don't need to know that to be a smart person. But if you're going to do a video, if you're going to do a lecture, if you're going to be a professor and talk about it, like maybe have the knowledge of a 12-year-old with access to a public library. Like,
wow.
Slay.
Wow.
So,
Cullen.
Yeah. Take that, woke moralist,
also,
as Jordan Peterson says.
Also, I do want to point out that Mars' background, for the listeners who can't see this, a beautiful Frozen-inspired background. Amazing. Again, living in Frozen.
Living in Frozen.
Straight from Elsa's Ice Palace.
Reporting live.
Yeah, so let's talk the backstory of this movie. So the fairy tales that it was based off of, because there's two.
Oh.
One is the snowman. It is about a snowman who is in love with an
Frosty
oven.
the Snowman?
With an oven.
Now
he just sits out in the cold and he looks at that oven. He's like, I want it. I want to be with that oven.
What that oven lid do. Oh,
I don't think I can unhear that.
That's my new favorite queer allegory.
I
You're,
mean,
you're a snowman, but you want to be near that oven. It'll melt you, but
yeah, but some people are worth melting for.
mm.
But
And
I want to do
sometimes
with
it's a
melting
Kenmore
too.
oven. Not sponsored by Kenmore.
There needs to be a ship now between Olaf and the talking oven and Beauty and the Beast.
We can write that fanfic. We can make it happen. And then we can talk about it on the podcast. And we're like, so this story is based on the lore of Snowman in the Oven.
Put it up on Create Your Own.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Snow Queen. It is a super long story about the power of faith and innocence and love. It is, I think, in my collection, my Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale collection, it's called under like evangelical tales, which Hans was not evangelical the way like we would think of it now. He was Lutheran, but yeah, they were distinctly religious. The Little Mermaid had a lot of religious elements. The Red Shoes has a lot of religious elements. And so that's something, because I've tried to adapt the Snow Queen before, and that makes it difficult. You know, and Anna was one of the focal characters in my Disney fanfic, so I guess I've adapted the Snow Queen by adapting Frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I tried to write a play of it in college, and my professor was like, maybe do something else.
Yeah. Something a little less complex.
Mm-hmm. So I wrote a pretty bad comedy, but you know what? It was original.
I mean, that's more than some people can say in Hollywood. So
true.
Everything but a reboot.
Her Glee Boo. Oh, so this story of the Snow Queen opens with a troll who may or may not be Lucifer, God's biggest disappointment. And
doesn't it literally say he's like, it's literally God himself, or was it from the video? The video.
The video kind of is like there's some people say a hobgoblin, some people say the devil, or they'll say a troll who was the devil, and they'll say he runs a demon school or a troll school. So I can't wait for the YA novel about a troll school.
Like the Vampire Academy.
Yeah.
Troll
school.
I love this. Oh my gosh.
And it makes everything ugly and evil appear bigger, and everything good small, and like kind of distorts things. And that's what demons are like. This is the real. Everything else, fake news. This is real. So it's QAnon.
AKA the front camera of your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, I hate that thing so much. Or even not even the camera. It's like the Black Mirror, not the show, but also it's like, and you're like, oh God, I need to sit up. Need to improve my posture.
So the demons, they love it. Everyone comes to see it. So they take it up to heaven to make fun of God and the angels. And then they're laughing so hard, they drop the mirror. And it flies. The shards still have all the powers. So they fly around and they get in people's eyes, which distorts their vision. And it can get in people's hearts. And then it will freeze their heart. And they become like evil, essentially. Or like they don't
can't
see
the good in nothing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Their heart is frozen. Whoa, frozen.
Beware the frozen heart.
Yeah, so this may be kind of reference to like the Enlightenment. That's how Anderson kind of saw like science and reason as it was taking like the beauty and romance out of life. And that's like a big yikes. But you know, he was also like a poor working class kid who became famous for his writing. And it is, I do appreciate that perspective, because you know, a lot of like philosophy and like Enlightenment stuff was really run by like rich white guys, and he was just like a white guy who was born poor, which is just slightly better. So I'll give him that. You know, like he had seen
query.
Yeah,
but
queerish.
still a guy.
Still a guy.
Yeah.
It
shows.
It does. It does. It really does in his writing. But you can...
Yeah, tell me you're a man without telling me you're a man.
Yeah. You can see the queerness, though, in often how he connects with his female characters.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of his protagonists are female. But then you read one like The Red Shoes, which I also tried to adapt, where it's like, this girl is vain and deserves to suffer.
And you know what? I will die on the hill and say that I thought your adaptation was good.
Thank
I
you.
was really into it.
I still need to like I've finished a couple drafts and I think I finally cracked the story. I just need to get on
Do
it.
it.
And I do think there is some things in this story that you can see a little bit of Anderson's self. Not much. I think it's mainly just fantastical adventures, but there's a little bit, and we'll touch on that. First, let's talk about trolls. None of
Internet
these
trolls. Let's
none of
roast them.
internet let's roast them. None of these trolls are played by Justin Timberlake or Anna Kendrick, unfortunately.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm thankful.
I'm thankful. Yeah, no JT. I am thankful for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Anna Kendrick, she can be anywhere. I like
yeah.
her.
So trolls are in like Norse mythology and Nordic folk belief, but we're very vague for many. My fridge likes to just scream sometimes. It's just like under the weight
It
of
wants a
being.
snowman. It wants a
wants a
snowman to
snowman.
look
It
at
wants a
it
snowman.
seductively.
Yeah.
But that snowman's like, I want that heat, not that cold, baby.
Yeah. So the troll just kind of meant like general malevolent spiritual entity. So they were kind of like witches, but they were never taken quite as seriously by society, but they were in medieval law. It was like a crime to consort with trolls and to like chant things and summon trolls. But like this is the thing, like in the Middle Ages it was kind of like, yeah, it's a law, but like whatever. And then post-Reformation Europe, that's when it became like, oh, we need to hunt down the witches, we need to hunt down the trolls, because of all the like instability and trying to root out some of that folk belief was like, we'll just kill it all, you know. So there's a lot much smarter people can get into that, but that's kind of the brief history of trolls. But the trolls often kidnapped young women and sometimes young men, maybe children,
Who have pet reindeers themselves. Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah. And then they didn't really get codified as like what we think of now until like the 18th century, where they were writing like taxonomies of mythical beings. So they're like, this is an elf, this is a ghost, this is a troll, they're separate, get it right, people. And the troll we think of now is largely because of Tolkien in Lord of the Rings, you know, that the big earth, like that like dumb thing is more like what is from Tolkien. Like in Norse mythology, like one of them was like Loki's baby mama, and she gave birth to the world serpent and the giant wolf that would eat Odin, and the goddess of the underworld, Hela, who would be later played by Cate Blanchett. Yeah.
Oh, that talk about a cultural reset. Oh my god.
So we got the demon mirror, right? It's flying around. So we have Kay and Gerda, or Kai and Gerda, and they're these two innocent, like poor children in a little city, and they love flowers and Gerda's grandma and singing little Jesus songs and playing together. And Kay sees he's talking to the grandma about the snow, and she's like, yeah, the snow is like bees. And he's like, well, I'm smart. Bees have a queen. And she's like, there's a snow queen. And Kay later sees her, and she's icy and terrifying. You know, she's horrifying. And there are people who say the Snow Queen is based on Jenny Lind, you know, the opera singer in The Greatest Showman.
Okay.
The one who sang Never Enough, because she was like, he had feelings for her, Hans did, and she rejected him. I think that's a little too T Swift. I mean, I think half the time songs people say about T Swift exes aren't even about those people. Like, I think she just leans into it for marketing. But like, I think like, I don't know. It's just people are like, she wasn't even particularly that cold of a person. She's actually known for being like, it just doesn't. It seems a little too neat for people.
Right.
But his mother and father referred to an ice maiden taking the father away when he died. Like when the father was dying, he's like, "Oh, she's coming for me." So yeah, and there's also Scotty, who's a Norse goddess of winter, who was more into like skiing and like winter sports than like the snow and ice. So she was not particularly cold or malevolent, but she did pick her husband based on his feet. Yeah. So
interesting.
yeah, foot fetish is
foot fetish since that time.
Yeah.
Human nature never changed.
I mean, although I can't deny, like, if I don't know if I could be with someone who has like gross feet. Because like I don't mind feet, they don't bother me, but like if you don't like take care of your feet, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you don't know about it.
I don't know.
So, a mirror shard one day blows into Kay's eyes and heart, and he just like becomes a dick. So let's talk about hearts a little bit. So the idea of heart as the center of being comes from Egypt.
Oh my God, we were right last week anyway. Wow.
So that was big in like mummification and everything, like the kind of idea that like your spirit resides in the
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
Because they would literally pull your brains out your nose because they're like, you don't need that shit.
Yeah.
And like honestly, smart.
Yeah.
So this thing cannot manufacture serotonin well enough. So and they're also big in like, Catholic lore, like the kind of ideas like the Sacred Heart of Jesus or the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and that kind of
Mhm.
spreads to like modern Western romanticism. Like Cupid struck me in the heart. Like the heart wants what it wants.
Yeah.
By Demi Lovato. No, that was Selena Gomez. Selena Gomez. I'm sorry. Don't cancel me. uh,
Yeah, they have beef, don't they?
maybe.
Or they did?
They did.
Maybe they resolved it. Or maybe the beef was just made up by the media. They like
Yeah.
maybe they had like a fight once, but then they got over it because they're adults.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I can also see, so there's like an interesting thing with Kay and Gerda's relationship. I can see it as kind of a metaphor for puberty and how like boys go through an age where suddenly like being mean to girls and like hating on girls is considered
Right.
like normal behavior.
Right.
Mhm.
There's also like a queer reading to this where like you could have maybe like Hans or someone could have their relationship with a man that's very sweet and intimate, and suddenly like the presence of like trying to appeal to like outer masculine forces kind of causes him to break away and like be a dick to the more effeminate male.
Interesting.
So I can
Hmm.
see, that's what I think, that's the part of Hans that's in Gerda. The
Right.
love for someone who they once were close with but is pushing them away, and like unwilling to just give up on that person.
Right.
uh yeah. So Kay, because of it, he doesn't see beauty except in like the snow, and he makes fun of, like, he's roasting the grandma and adults all the time. He's mean to Gerda, and the adults are like, he's so smart, he's so funny,
He's
like
so
he's
quippy.
clever. Yeah, which is also really interesting because I don't think, again, Hans is a man, he's not going to get into this, but like
But you
I don't think.
also like the it's very, very telling that he sees beauty in snow because he has the shard of a mirror that only sees evil as
Mm,
beautiful. Or not beautiful, just it heightens the bad. And then
yeah.
he sees a snowflake and he sees that as perfect. So there's nothing being heightened. And I understand it as because the snowflakes are like fractals, which is like mathematically perfect, which is
Mm.
Yeah.
reason. And I think
Mm,
the way art goes into history is always has like a emotional movement, and then which is counterparted by a reasonable movement, and it's counterparted by
Mm.
emotional movement. So it makes sense that the time that Hans was a thing, he was like right kind of like coming off of a reason movement and starting into an emotional one.
Mm.
And like also
Interesting.
it is the heart was the symbolism of the heart is also thought of through a lens of people in that when that started a long time ago, they needed to differentiate feelings from the reason. If your soul is in your head, like your brain, everything has to make sense, everything has a reason.
Mm.
And feelings don't, and they didn't want feelings to have a reason because they didn't want people to be reasonable because they're more controllable.
yeah.
So heart. But this guy K gets attacked in both.
Yeah.
So none
Yeah.
of those can be trusted
Yeah.
in him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, he sees the roses, which are like organic, as like gross and imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I don't think Gerda would be allowed to act like this, and I think that would be encouraged.
Mm-mm.
Where Kay is, and again, that kind of relates to how girls and boys are treated in puberty. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so Kay gets kidnapped by the Snow Queen. He hooks his sled up to her sleigh. And when she's pulling him along, like, he can't remember his prayers. He can only remember his multiplication tables.
Mhm.
And then she like brings him in.
I wish I could remember those. I
Yeah.
struggle sometimes. Been too long.
She scoops him up in her carriage, and she's just so beautiful to him now that he has the shard. She's the most beautiful thing, and she kisses him, which makes him stop feeling the cold. But if she's like, if I kiss you again, you'd die. And then it's like frost kiss, and he starts telling her like, well, I know all these facts, and she's like, yeah, tell me. Yeah, but
He's like, hey, fun fact. He's just mansplaining things to her.
She's like,
And
I'm an
she's like, I
immortal
love
snow
this.
goddess. But
She's
sure.
like, I love this. Please pop off.
It's very. Does it remind you of anything else in the fantasy genre?
The Snow Queen in the sleigh with a little boy. You
Yeah.
mean? Oh, I mean, immediately Tilda Swinton came to mind in Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that it? Was that the answer?
Yeah, that's the answer.
Yay! What do I win?
You win.
Do I get to come on the podcast next episode?
Week.
Yay!
I think it's I think Lewis, I mean, he based the White Witch off of the Snow Queen.
Yeah.
I think he deals with her better, I would say. The Snow Queen kind of disappears from this story.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everyone's like, Kay's dead. The kid's dead all the time. This is 18, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, they really were just like, we're not gonna look anymore. Not gonna waste our resources.
And Gerda is sad, but like the sun and the birds are like, Kay's alive. And she's like, okay. And so she goes to the river because they think he drowned in the river outside of town. And she offers her red shoes as like bartering. Like, here are my shoes. They're the thing I love the most. They're the most expensive thing I own. Like, tell me where Kay is. And the river is like, I don't fucking know. So it's like trying to give her back the shoes. And she's like, no. And she throws them deeper. She gets on a boat to throw them deeper. And then the boat dislodges. And the river's like, well, I think he went north. So I'll like take her that way. And so the boat goes north, and then she gets to this cottage with these big cherry trees, all these flowers. And this old woman brings her in and like feeds her cherries and combs her hair, and it like enchants her, and she forgets about Kay. Because the Hans describes her as she's a witch, but not like an evil witch. She just like does a little magic for herself.
Yeah, she's having a little fun.
Cottagecore.
Yeah, I mean, usually
Cottagecore.
old women in fairy tales or even in the Disney lore itself, they're not treated as a danger or a threat. They're always just they're the crazy ones, you know?
Yeah.
The crazy ones, the caring ones, the ones that so like the fairies in Sleeping Beauty. They're crazy-ish, they don't do anything, but they care, you know, and that's their purpose. And I think it's like the woman has a life, you know, in fairy tales, and it's not a very good life because you were born and then you were like a girl, so you are capped. You cannot learn things, you can't do much, and then you become a teenager, and your innocence and your virtue is your main thing. So you're a Denzel, and then you only serves the story, or you only serves any story or any character's life when you are a Denzel in distress. So you're you only move the plot by being peril and needing someone to save you. And then you grow a little bit more, and you're like, let's say a woman is in the 30s, 40s, and then she becomes a femme fatale, especially if she's not married. And then if she lives a little bit more, she's a crazy lady. And that's very fun to decapsulate. I was like, this is wild. Why all these depictions of women are so bad, to be quite honest. So I'm glad that currently on our contemporary fairy tales, we're starting to break it or join other tropes into those known ones. But yeah, I just wanted to note that it's interesting that the old lady on the Snow Queen, which is also not seen as a threat, kind of becomes a diversion.
Yeah, she's like a little like side quest
Mm-hmm.
And it is interesting though, because Gerda she fits very much the damsel role. She's constantly like in and out of distress, but a lot of times she kind of like in this one she kind of gets out herself, like with the witch, but
Yeah.
not in like a badass way at all. But so the witch is like just kind of enchants her, but she knows that her and Kay have this thing with roses, so she hides all the roses. And then Gerda sees the rose on the hat, and she's like, "Where are the roses? Why are the roses not here?" And she cries, and the tears like break the spell, and the roses come back up. And she's like, "Oh, roses, where are Kay?" And they're like, "Well, he's not dead. Like we were in the ground, where dead people go, and he wasn't there." And she's like, "Okay, great." And then she's like, "I'm gonna ask the other flowers that can all apparently talk, like what's going on." And they all like it's a really long part of the story where they just sing like little songs and poems about like nothing. Narcissus, the narcissus flower, talks about like I see myself because am I echoing? Okay. Yeah, because it's like a vain boy was turned into the narcissus flower, and that's where we get narcissism. You know. So let's briefly talk about roses. So in Greek mythology, roses came from the blood of Adonis, who was one of Aphrodite's lovers, who was killed by another god, depending on the story, for being jealous. And she like her tears and the blood mixed, and they became roses, which is similar to the hyacinth flower, which is one of Apollo's gay lovers that died. So the connection of roses with like love, beauty, and romance, and kind of tragedy and pain with the thorns that persists today. Again, that symbolism was big in Christianity. You have the crown of thorns. You have the Virgin Mary is sometimes called the mystical rose or associated with roses. You have like the Virgin of Guadalupe, who in that story, the bishop, she's appearing to this native band, Juan Diego, and is saying like, "I want a church here," and he keeps going to the bishop, and the bishop's like, "I don't believe you." And then he opens his cloak, and it shows the very famous image of the Virgin of Guadalupe, and roses come tumbling out. And that's another thing with Saint Elizabeth of Hungary. She was a 13th century noblewoman who's always giving stuff to the poor, and she was like sneaking bread out of the kitchens, and the noblemen were like, "What are you doing?" And they like pulled it away, and then it was roses, and she's like, "Just taking away flowers." She didn't get in trouble, but she did die because her spiritual director beat her and like had her do these crazy penances that eventually led to her death, or was taking care of lepers, depending on who's telling the story. Yeah. So the flowers, so roses represent that kind of like love, and there is an association with like Christianity that Hans is very much beating. They have a song that they sing about Jesus. That really it doesn't really say anything about Jesus. It just throws in Jesus. So
love a little Jesus, just
yeah,
dash of Jesus.
Yeah. I really like that Trisha Paytas song about Jesus. That's kind of what this is. So Gerda escapes, and it says she keeps looking back to see if the woman's chasing her. And she's like, okay, she's not. And then she meets a crow who's like, she tells her, the crow, like, "Hey, missing my friend." He's like, "Yeah, this like smart ass kid like just married the nearby princess." She was really smart. She had read every newspaper in the world once and then forgot them all again. And she was like so bored of guys who were just awed by her wealth and intelligence and beauty. So she like did a casting call to the kingdom and was like, anyone shows up. And this guy showed up. He wasn't surprised at all. And he just came up and chatted with her. And she's like, "This is the one."
So I would say I appreciate that princess, even though that part of the story, it's completely out of place and it does not belong in the story at all. But the fact that there is a young lady who takes it upon herself to like actually find someone that suits her intellectual needs. I was like, yes, pop off, woman. Feminism.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, it makes sense.
Almost all the characters, like the vast majority of the characters in this story, are women.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Does it pass the Bechdel test?
Not gay.
They talk about Kay a lot. Oh
I don't
God.
Well,
think
there
it
you go.
passes the back of the test.
So yeah, so she goes to the castle with the help of the crow's girlfriend. They sneak her in, and they see like dreams on the wall, but it doesn't really explain what. And then she like sees the prince, and it says she sees a brown neck. So maybe we have a person of color in this story.
Disembodied.
Well, it's the prince's neck, but that she says it looks like
Oh,
Kay. So
got it.
Kay may not be a little pale Scandinavian boy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't
representation. Thanks, Hans.
catch that at all. Yeah, well,
yeah, we'll take that with a grain of salt. But anyway, so she the prince turns around and is like, what? And then they're kind of like, hey, what's going on? And then she just cries about Kay, and they're like, okay, we'll help you. They promote the crows. They both have court positions.
I would do want to give a
Okay.
shout out to the person who did that video, overly sarcastic productions. Literally, the person was like, and then they get like promoted to like to the court, which I find hilarious. I just like cackled. I was like, that's great.
I love that channel, and one of them went to Boston University.
Oh my goodness, fellow BU
Yeah,
alum.
that'd be a lot.
Hello.
I definitely want to try and get them on the pod at some
I
point.
loved that video. I was like, I want to watch more of these. This is great.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I love their content. Yeah, so anyways, they give her a carriage, and there's like sweetmeats and nuts, and it's made of gold.
Yeah. And then the person in this video, again, overly sarcastic productions, was like, it's a bit ostentatious, and why would anyone be surprised what happens next? And then literally like she's robbed.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, what do they expect?
They're robbed, and all the people like the coach and stuff straight up murdered.
Murdered.
They're dead.
And they only keep her around. What's the girl's name again? Gerda.
Yeah.
Gerda.
They keep her around because one of the robbers,
The
kids
daughter
is like,
of the main.
it's like, oh, I want to
chief.
play with that. I want to play with her. She's becoming a new pet.
Yeah, the robber girl, lesbian icon.
Right? I was like, this is sapphic. The fact that they sleep in the same bed?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
and
is sapphic.
when you read this story, it's very sapphic, and there are modern adaptations where it's written that way. Like it's like the robber girl's the main character.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Gerda, okay, like we see that this girl wanted to play with this other girl and use what meaning of the word play you want to use here. But she wants to play with this other girl, and then upon knowing Gerda, and she suddenly gets better and don't want to hurt anyone anymore, and she just want to be good to people and helps Gerda on her path to find the man. I was like, we almost hit it, Hans. We almost hit it. But then you turn someone who wants to play with a girl be nice by leading her to a man. So I don't know if I love that moment, but I liked the sapphic push.
Yeah. And the robber girl is like, yeah, she's like, stop crying. She holds her knife, and then the animals, because she has a bunch of pet animals that she has all like in squalor, and they're all like, hey, like we saw Kay with the Snow Queen. She drove by, and they say the snow killed our babies. And so they're like, yeah, we know the Snow Queen. They're like, fuck that Snow Queen. Rescue that boy. And so she's like, the robber girl's like, okay, like the reindeer knows about it, and the reindeer's like, yeah, I know about it. She's like, okay, go with the reindeer. I'm tired of like you're like, I don't want to hear you crying. And she's like, yeah, like I'm gonna go. Like she steals a bunch of stuff from the robbers. She waits in the story. It talked about waiting till her mother has drank from her bottle and takes a nap, and it describes the mother and daughter like kind of hitting each other, but they do it out of love. So yeah, so the robber girl helps her escape on the reindeer. I think it has a different name, but I'm like Sven. And she goes to the Lapland woman, which is like a Sami woman, like the indigenous people of northern Scandinavia, who writes a message on a fish, sends her to the Finland woman, who's like, her innocence, that's the only thing that can defeat the Snow Queen. The faith of a child. So they get super far, and the reindeer's like, you're on your own, kid. And so she's up to the ice palace. Like she left her boots at one of those old ladies' house. and the ice monsters are attacking. And so she says the Lord's Prayer, and the breath turns into angels who fight the snow monsters. And Hans is not known for his subtlety. Yeah. So she gets to the palace. Snow Queen's not there. Not home. MIA. Kay's almost frozen to death. The Snow Queen promised him the whole world and a pair of skates if he put together this ice puzzle that said the word eternity. So that's like some kind of Christian quest for eternity and futility.
I guess.
Yeah. And she sits in a throne, and it's called the Lake of Reason. Yeah.
Oof.
Again, subtle Hans. Which does make me think of there's the thing that Jesus says was it profits a man nothing to gain the whole world and lose his soul.
Right.
And then, which very famously in the play A Man for All Seasons about Thomas More, the guy betrays Thomas More to Henry VIII so he can be in charge of Wales, and Thomas More is like, it profits a man nothing to gain the whole world and lose his soul, but for Wales, like you should have worked higher, like at least Scotland, like come on. So she finds him, and he doesn't recognize her, and she cries, and that like heals his heart. The tears get into his heart and like remove the shard.
It heals the frozen heart.
Yes, love heals a frozen heart. And then she sings the Jesus song by Trisha Paytas, and and he cries because he's now like his heart is now working, so he remembers the feeling, and so that washes away the shard, and now he like sees things as they are, and her kisses warm him up, and they're like, let's leave. And on their way back, they run into the robber girl, who's like, he better have been worth all this trouble. And she talks about the crows, like the boy crow died from gout, and the other crow wears like a black ribbon as a widow and is like always complaining. And so they go back to the city, and they realize they kind of grew up. And the grandmother actually reads the quote from the Bible that unless you have little children, faith like little children, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. And it talks about like God's sunshine or something, and it's beautiful, blessed summer. And that is the end of the Snow Queen. The healing tears, I mentioned Aphrodite and Apollo, but also that is in the Rapunzel story. Spoilers for Rapunzel and everybody, but her tears kill the blindness of the prince. So, which
spoilers for a story that's how old now?
Yeah, like older than Western democracy. Yeah, so this is all about like the innocence of children, which is very big in romantic literature and very big in Christianity because of the Jesus said the faith like a child thing. And that appears in Christian culture from everything from like stories of like the virgin martyrs who were like pure to the point of death to save the children from the drag queens modern discourse. It takes many forms, like save the innocents. Chronicles of Narnia kind of uses it, like especially in the Lucy character. Peter Pan has the whole like believing fairies thing, So it's not exclusively a Christian concept. A lot of Christmas movies do the kind of faith belief magic thing.
Yeah, Polar Express.
Terrifying.
I got that movie for Christmas. I don't like that movie. I don't like the animation. I don't like that Tom Hanks plays like 8,000 characters.
Yeah.
I just not into it.
And growing up in a culture where that innocence was valued, I can see the ways it helped me. That like I feel like innocence can be associated too with a sense of justice. That like I feel like adult jadedness can be, well, that's the way the world works, and the innocent child says, well, that's not fair, that's not right. And I think that has shaped me, or just like ways of viewing people as people and not as like things to be used. But I also think of that it did a lot of evil to me, and put me in dangerous situations because I didn't understand what was going on.
I think these stories were used to control people, especially girls. And I think when you join innocence with girl, it's usually seen as pure and virtuous, because that's what girls need to be. They need to
Yeah.
be innocent. They need to be controllable. When innocence is linked with boys, that is usually seen as naive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And boys can't be innocent because they're naive if they are. And when you are, bad things happen to you, like being kidnapped by the Snow Queen and not being able to see anything. So I think, well, what I mentioned earlier, when Hans' queerness shows, but it also shows that he's a man, because it shows, because it's like very forward for him to have women go through an adventure, which is not very it's not very usual. And he does that also with the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
In that sense. And I kind of really appreciate that in the Snow Queen, they have a happy ending. Gerda goes through perils, but she takes herself out of it, and she gets her goal and saves the guy, which is like, I think that's the core backbone that made the adaptation of Frozen become this feminist icon. Like the bones were there. We just needed to assemble it to make sense to our current society. Whilst in the Little Mermaid, for example, she got punished for doing it.
Yeah.
At the end. But it was still a mechanism of, oh, pureness and virtue is your biggest power.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would still make an impression on young girls.
Yeah.
And act as control.
I mean, even thinking of Disney characters, like all the women are always innocent, and most of the men are typically not, to varying degrees.
I mean, depends on the age of the women.
Depends on the age. It's not all of them. Like, Esmeralda is. I do love her as a character because she's very sexual, but she's also very compassionate. And like those things are obviously not opposed, but in media, especially media aimed towards children, they are often depicted as opposed, and so she has both. She's warm and loving without being innocent. Like, she knows the world sucks, but she doesn't like that, and she's not okay with that. But a lot, especially the princesses, kind of lean towards this innocence, and the men are not depicted that way. Kristoff might be one of the more innocent male leads.
Well, yeah, I mean, like Hans from the very beginning in Frozen is literally like he's playing her.
Yeah.
Like, we know now. Spoilers for Frozen, guys. But like kind of like going to that, like Anna is very naive and very innocent because she's been isolated.
Yeah.
And then she meets Hans, and Hans is not innocent, and he's, so yeah, we see that in this too.
Yeah, which I think is interesting, because so many Disney stories have like she's innocent, but it's okay because they're good people, but like this is like, well, if you're innocent, you can be taken advantage of,
Yep. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And honestly, not to like jump forward too much, but I literally was like watching the Love is an Open Door song, and I'm like, he's literally just telling her anything she wants to hear. I was like, he's a walking red flag. Like, how did we not see this?
Yeah. Well, and I think
it's because of the known iconography of movies.
Yeah.
Of the Disney
when you were saying that, I was like,
when you tell this is a prince, you go back to every single iteration of Disney specific prince you've ever seen in your life, and that was the first one that there was a bad one.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that. We didn't know it was possible.
Yeah. And it's like the signs are there for you if you're like not going to actually, but you're going to subconsciously do that because it's such in our culture. And it's just, so when you were saying that, I was like,
and it was subtle, and that's the thing, because I feel like when you make an overt satire, sometimes the person you want to poke don't get it because it's so over that they are usually like, but I'm not like this. So you have to be subtle. So then he hurts when he needs to be hurt, and he actually tells people, in this case, tells women to be careful, and tells men that they might not be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think Hans as a character wasn't just a poke on like girls you can be taken advantage of, but it was also poked on the boys who wish to be princess, and identified with him in the beginning. Like, oh, this is how am I supposed to act towards the girl? And then you see the end, they're like, oh, what?
Oh,
You know, like
okay.
I feel
Don't do
I feel
that.
the subtleness of Hans hurts wearing on who needs to hurt too.
Yeah, Hans is very well done because it's a twist and you can see it coming, but well, we'll talk more about Hans, but
you can see coming once you know it's coming.
Yeah,
because
that's the
once
thing.
you
I was like,
don't,
it's been so long since I've seen this, and I was like, oh my god, like what was I doing? Like he's a walking red flag. Oh my god.
I feel like there needs to be a research done because like of like kids who watched the Disney princess the way they were coming out, and if you show them Frozen first, how they will react to all the other princesses.
Oh,
Like will they already will they always doubt them? Like I just want to
I mean I feel like that's probably a logical conclusion, like because if you're saying like, okay, we see Hans, like, oh, we're just gonna trust him because we know he's a prince and that's what we have our background in. But if you start with Frozen, you're like, I don't trust Prince
Philip.
Trust? Prince Eric, he's gonna break her heart.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so one last thing about the original story is, women going on quests in fairy tales isn't as rare as people think. They're just not as adapted as often, which is interesting. But there's stories like The Wild Swans, East of the Sun, West of the Moon, Cupid and Psyche, all have women going on a quest to rescue a man, which is still like a man's motivation. But like there's a lot. It's not like, honestly, the trope there, like the prince rescuing the princess in that very classical way, is not as common as people think. Especially if the princess is a character. There are some stories that are very much just about a boy the whole time, then there's like a princess tacked on at the end. But there's there's a lot of ones where about like a relationship where they like save each other, and the one of like the prince fights the dragon and rescues the princess is just like the story of Saint George.
I love you telling me that because I think it's shifting a paradigm in my brain, because like they are not adapted, and then you start to think like why for our contemporary society we don't see that as normal the same way that you're telling me like in the past they were usual. It's probably because someone was saying that this is not what we want in our society, contemporary, and blood boiling.
Let's talk about 2013's Frozen. Let's talk about the cultural reset. All right. So it opens with a chant of Sami-inspired music and a Christian Christmas hymn that was rearranged and censored, and what it was, because I remember listening to a few different versions when this movie was in development. And then we get the Frozen Heart song, sets up the theme.
Some of the plot elements.
Beware Frozen Heart. Ice is magic.
And then there's literally like I think doesn't they say like love will melt a frozen heart, something like that?
I don't think they say it, but they say
maybe I'm like reading into it too much.
This song,
it's like kind of obvious once you like see the end of the movie, like, oh, okay, that's what that song was doing.
That song did not make it to Broadway though.
No.
Really? That doesn't surprise me. I literally was like, I forgot that this is how it started, because I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
I was like, I thought for some reason all I remember is like the starting with like the trolls. That's the only thing I remember is like the start that, and like them playing in the snow in the castle.
There we meet baby Kristoff and Sven, who are, at first you're like, oh, this is like his dad is one of these ice harvesters, but then he's just like on his own.
And then he's kind of kidnapped, but not like aggressively. It's like like I'm gonna keep you. I'm
gonna keep you. I also may or may not have the power to change memories, so.
Which is reminiscent of the old lady in the main story, in the original story.
Gosh,
and also from the Snow Queen, the original story, because she captures Kay and keeps him.
Because like, why didn't he go back to his family? Like, or was he just like, he was part of this community, he just didn't have parents? I don't know. For some reason, I'm obsessed with Kristoff.
Yeah.
Well, you're
so many questions.
Meant to obsess. So
he was written for that.
sorry to this man. Like I
Sorry to this man.
We go to the castle. Anna and Elsa are playing with Elsa's ice magic.
These voice actors, they're so cute. These little kids like melted my heart.
Do you remember the video?
My
Again,
childless heart.
Frozen was huge, where it was like two like babies, like could not speak babies that were like reenacting this scene. And like they would play on the TV, and they're like twin sisters, and like one
There's
would be
like nah,
Elsa
nah, nah,
and
nah,
one would be
nah, nah, nah,
Anna.
nah, nah.
No, they would like lay on each other like they did, and like do the dance.
Oh
Like
my
they did
gosh.
everything. That these kids loved that movie.
Yeah. And the parents are like, I hate my life. I hate Disney.
Yeah, this ruined many a parent's life, but you know, so did many other movies before.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, so it injures Anna, turns her hair white, knocks her out. And the parents are like, "What did you do?" Like, the parents
Yeah.
are pissed. And then they're like, "Let's go to the trolls." Um, they say like the trolls are like, "Hey Elsa, your magic's great, but fear will be your enemy," and imply witch hunts.
And it's also like, and we're not gonna do anything to help you manage that fear or like help you manage your powers. We're I'm just gonna tell your father that we just need to like bury this whole thing, and that's gonna work.
Yeah,
So it's the troll's fault.
it's the troll's fault, and he heals her and erases her memory of magic because she's like, Anna can't know, and I'm like, why?
Why? Like, just be like, you have to keep this a secret, but
In
like
your
your sister
immediate
has
family,
powers.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, just don't tell anyone. And also don't play with the ice powers when mom and dad aren't in the room. I think that solves this problem. The movie's over.
Movie's
It's
over.
done.
And they say the head's easy to fix, but not the heart.
Yeah.
And
Which, you know what? Here's what I'm going to say. I think that in going to like contemporary medicine, I feel like the opposite would be true. A lot easier to fix the heart, a lot harder to fix the electricity mush
Yeah.
in our brain, in our noggins, you know?
So yeah, they remove the memories, and so they say Elsa is born with powers, which I remember that Catholic newspaper being like, "That's gay propaganda."
Mhm.
That yeah, because as we know, all lesbians have ice powers. So, but
Yeah.
they're not born with them; they
I have
choose
sleep
them.
powers because I'm bisexual.
Bisexual, yeah. And you chose it. You're like, I'm gonna be
I was like, I
bisexual
love
for the
sleep.
I
sleep
mean,
powers.
Yeah.
I love like because allegedly the writer said that they didn't even think about the gay allegory that this will become, especially with Let It Go and everything,
Yeah.
which is like, really?
How do you not?
Like, how do you not see what
Really?
you're writing?
Like, really? And I think it's reminiscent of also Han's queerness coming off, but
Yeah.
also it's like so interesting how if you it's like this is the theme of the movie is like don't hide who you are, but
Yeah.
when it's the words gay or queer comes into play, that's not a rhetoric at all anymore.
Yeah.
Like everyone agrees that that's a good rhetoric unless you say it's queer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like hide who you are as much as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I often think about that. I was like, what if someone maybe, I mean, it's Hollywood, so the chances of having queer people in that creative growing of Frozen is very, very high. But like on the off chance that there wasn't and no one caught it, because if there was, I think they probably was silent. But like if they had caught it, if straights had caught it before it came out, if the straights had caught it before it came out, like would they try to change? That's my I have this thing in my head. Like, because whenever things is overtly queer, they try to change it and make it more subtle. So like, well, and if they say they never thought about it, I was like, what if they had? How would that have been handled? And it's a curiosity that we'll never know, but I just want to throw to the ether.
Or maybe it was like, they're like, no, we're just going to say that we didn't know this and just hope no one notices.
Yeah.
And the queers were like, oh my God, look at that slit in her dress. She is gay.
So, yeah, so the trolls then kidnap Kristoff. They also say lock up the king. Well, the troll doesn't say this. The king is like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna dismiss a lot of the staff. We're gonna lock up the castle. I'm like, how are you supposed to run a country with a locked up castle?
Well, they did it.
I mean, and it seems like no one was like mad at them
Yeah.
either. Like,
I'm very intrigued at how this kingdom runs and its rules.
They were on the social distance protocol before that was a thing.
Yeah. So then Anna sings, "Do you want to build a snowman?" And she's basically like, "Let's hang out. Like we're friends." She remembers that they were friends. She's like, "Why do you want to hang out with me?" And it's as a youngest sibling, this song speaks to me.
Right to the heart.
Yeah, you're always bugging your older siblings, and there's an age where they really kind of don't want to anymore. Where you're still a kid and maybe they're a teenager.
Yeah.
Like,
so now you touched on that. That's my, I think, hot take. I want to say hot take, but like biggest pet peeve or problem with Frozen. It's like I am very close to my sister, very, very close. But then we weren't close when my sister pestered me. We were friends when she was born, and then she started pestering me. We weren't close, but then we made an agreement, like a very like thought through agreement to be close. Like we are each other's person. But like the way, as a queer person, I don't see family as inherently like for you. I feel like queer, family, we choose to learn to love our family, and it's not like inherently lovable. And I feel like she remembers the fun when they were kids, but then there were so many years where she got rejected. They grew up so much, they don't even know who they are. That it feels kind of like awkward to me that when Elsa runs away, Anna would be that sister.
Her.
Yeah.
I was like, they don't have that bond. It's weird.
I think it really relies on like Anna's just like so lovable. She just wants to love, and like
Elsa's all she has. I think
it doesn't feel like, I feel like it's a like a cultural push to like for people that rests on the fact that we as a culture
blood is thicker than
believe
water.
that blood is thicker than anything. And I'm like, but I as a queer person don't believe that. So that was like a bit harder for me to believe.
That's a good point.
I've seen that criticism before where they're like, people do complain about like these princesses motivated by love, but they're choosing like a prince or whatever, but that's a person they're choosing. That's not a person that was given to them. And like they're choosing someone who is also reciprocating that love. And Elsa is not, and it's different. Like Kay and Gerda, even like you don't get the vibe that it was like a year or a few months of them no longer being close. Not like years. Like they like basically from 4 to like 18, Anna is like all alone. And Elsa just rejects her, and like that just shows Anna's like capacity to love and just her desire to love and be loved. And it's really tragic. Like this poor girl.
It also kind of sends the wrong message. To my point, I was like, just because you love someone, you shouldn't try to fix them to your eyes. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, to Elsa's point, she was in distress and she needed help and saving and to be loved and everything. But that was the point of the story. But I'm just talking about the message that it shows people, because in our society, women are already thrusted into the position of saving the people who they love. So I was like, it's kind of not amazing. Message.
Like even just the idea, that Anna never adjusts, and it's like, okay, well, you obviously don't care about me. And there's a little bit, we get that in their confrontation scene. We'll talk about that. But it's like I'm sure Cinderella would have loved if her stepmother was nice to her, but like Cinderella learns, well, okay, that bitch hates me. Like she's not gonna be like, can't wait to get close to you. She's gonna be like, okay,
she's like, one day it'll happen.
She's just like, okay,
one day you'll stop, making me do chores and like invite me to dinner.
So poor Anna, and then because the parents die in a shipwreck.
As they have to.
Anna is at that funeral alone. They're public figures. So Anna is alone. she's truly all alone. And like that whole part where she's like, people are asking where you've been, like we only have each other. Like this poor girl is so heartbroken, and that's why, I mean, I love both of them, but I think that's why Anna is our protagonist, and that's why I think she really carries the franchise as much as Elsa is like the fun one that people want to dress up as. You
Right.
know,
I
like
mean,
you feel the depths of Anna.
Elsa at its core, like if you put on paper, let's analyze tropes and characters. Elsa fits the femme fatale character. It was a
Yeah,
twist. It was a good one at the end, but
yeah,
she was written, and even in the original story, as the
the
villain,
villain. Yeah,
the femme
Mm.
fatale.
Yeah.
and it was they changed it up. Uh, yeah. So poor Anna. And okay, but the thing is, they are so alone because of their parents' choices.
Yes, and that's the things like that's why I also feel very much for Elsa because like we'll talk about like the antagonists and stuff, but like Elsa, even though she's supposed to be like the Snow Queen, the antagonist of like one of the antagonists of that story, it's like I also feel for her. Like she's like depressed and
Alone.
anxious and so isolated, but like it's not her fault. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not Anna's fault. It's literally her dad's fault
Yeah. And the
and the
sequel,
troll.
the
Yeah,
troll, and the sequel tries to retcon this a little bit and be
mhm.
like, the parents were so loving, and I don't really care for that because I'm like, I like the idea that
No.
maybe the parents weren't like straight up like fuck these kids, but they even maybe if it came from a place of love, like they were abusive in a way, like they
Yes.
traumatized their children, they isolated them, they separated them. That like even if Anna had known and Elsa had someone like Elsa, Anna probably wouldn't have been like she probably would like shut up with the conceal don't feel like
Mhm.
you're fine, we'll
And
just be careful, you know.
not to bring to a queer lens against, but that's the lens I see the world. Do you see these colorful glasses? Very gay.
Queer colored
Just
glasses.
giant
Queer
rainbow
color,
glasses.
rainbow glass, queer color glasses. But that's how I see it. That's how I see the world. It's like I think I don't think Elsa is the villain. She just serves the trope of a
Yeah,
Yeah.
villain, but she's
Yeah.
not in the story, which is good. But also what you're mentioning about the parents is like, especially I am the older queer kids. I've kind of lived that through this Queen was, and I've seen it being lived through when parents see that moment where there's no coming back from the queer moment. They try to protect the youngest one,
Mm,
yeah,
and I saw that as kind of
interesting.
that's like you be you, but like far away from this one. Like we need to protect
yeah,
her of your danger.
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think the queer allegory is very strong. I just want to mention some people view Elsa's powers as an allegory for like autism or
Mhm.
disability or just anything that makes you different. So I do like that the movie is that what Elsa goes through is something that people with multiple experiences can relate to.
Can
But yes,
relate.
like
Mm.
I watch it and I mean gay is the first
Yeah,
thing
that's
that
the lens I see. That's
connects.
we just have to remember that. Like that's the lens I see it because that's
Yeah.
my experience. It always reverts to that a little bit.
It's Coronation Day. Uh Weaseltown is here. Duke of Wesselton being maniacal. We see adult Kristoff. He didn't care it was
Mhm.
Sven. They're all grown up. Kristoff is voiced by the erotic Jonathan Groff.
He's such erotic.
Oh,
Jonathan Groff.
I
Love
love
him.
Kristoff's voice. Oh my
Okay, I
gosh.
know that this isn't Glee Boot, but I am so excited to watch one of the final episodes where Jay Groff comes back. I know that it happens. I've seen the gifs and I'm here for it and I can't wait. Okay, Glee talk
We love
over.
Jonathan. And Anna is played now she's an adult, she's played by Kristen Bell.
Mhm.
mhm.
And Elsa is
Cute.
played by Adina Menzel.
Adele Dazeem.
Adele Dazeem. Uh, yeah, so uh, Anna is excited for Coronation Day. Like, yeah, she wakes up, she's a mess, but she's like, it's
She's
Coronation
excited
Day.
because she's gonna see people.
Yeah,
That's what she's excited about. Like the gates are gonna open, there's gonna be people.
this song like describes me as an 18-year-old. Graduating from being homeschooled. Yeah. I
Amazing.
saw
You're
people
gonna
growing
see
up.
people.
I did see people growing up. I'd like to clarify, but yeah, it was like that kind of. I think that's why I resonated with Anna in this movie just so much. And she say "First Time in Forever" is such a banger. I love that song. It has everything: duets, ducks, a Rapunzel cameo, like
Yeah.
everything you could
Oh my
ask
God,
for.
that when I was in the production of Frozen, that song was my nightmare because
Yeah.
they had like special moments and like the people who work in the castle have to do stuff, and
Yeah.
like each one of us had this specific moment in the song where you needed to be in one place because Anna was going to interact with you. And I, for the first couple of performances, I forgot mine and then tried
Oh
to do it
no.
alone. And I was like, I have to remember that I need to bring her chocolate.
Yeah, that every musical has that like group number. Like in Beauty and the Beast, it's Belle, the one that like everyone has to
Mhm.
be in, and like you have to rehearse so many times, and everyone hates it by the end.
Yeah.
So she runs into Hans, or Hans runs into her. The horse hits her.
Yeah.
Uh,
She falls back into a boat of
yeah,
her
and
own.
they have a little meet cute. Uh,
Yeah.
they fall on top of each other. It's
Yeah.
Hans is so charming when we meet him.
Yeah. I mean,
He's
He
yeah.
should be.
and I think I want to I want to know. I feel like Hans is winging it for most of this movie. I feel like he had a general plan and he is
Yeah.
improving, based on the
He I
situation.
think he's very good at reading people very quickly
Yeah.
and he just adapts. He's an improv king.
Isn't
I'll
he
give him that.
isn't he the youngest brother of like
So
13
he's
Yeah.
good at
boys?
watching. Yeah,
Yeah.
he has been watching for years. He knows like yeah, he's learned so much just by watching probably.
And Hans is playing the Game of Thrones here.
Yeah. Oh, literally. Literally the Game of Thrones.
Anna is
Throne.
living her Disney princess life and he is playing the Game of Thrones and it is
Yeah.
clashing. Yeah, so the coronation happens. Elsa almost freezes the scepter and the orb. And Elsa and Anna kind of have these cute moments at the reception.
I
And
think this is what saves what we were talking about earlier of like, well, why would she go after her? Like they didn't have the relationship. I think we we get a very small glimpse of possibly what maybe their relationship was off screen, that like they
Mhm.
saw each other in passing and it was like, oh, hey, you look nice,
yeah,
it was but like weirdly like Elsa's very calm and like
yeah.
Anna's kind of like freaking out,
I
so I don't know how
think
to read this,
I
but
think because Elsa is the one who's deciding whether or not they interact.
oh yeah.
So Anna doesn't know why Elsa suddenly shut her out. So
Yeah.
she's so scared of what she's gonna do that could piss
Yeah.
Elsa off, or she's
And
Yeah,
she's
because she's like, you look beautiful or not
yeah,
fuller. And I was like, fat phobic.
as I think Anna's trauma experience is very
yeah,
much handled by Elsa's attention to her. It's kind of a drug, like whenever
yeah.
Yeah.
Elsa gives me attention, I don't even know how to act. That's what I
Yeah.
need because she never does and I can never get. But when she decides to, that's,
This movie
the
is really
attention.
toxic. There's
Yeah,
a lot of toxic things
but
happening here. And like, I just like, I did not
most
expect this discourse today, and I'm loving
most
it.
Disney princesses have very toxic lives. I'm not saying the movies are toxic, but there's
Right.
trauma. And
Yes.
a friend
There's
got
trauma.
me a book that was about like two princes. It was this kind of cute kids picture book, and it was cute. But I do remember being like, this doesn't feel like a real fairy tale because there's no trauma.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
And I
that's
think like, I just think I've never, like, I've thought about it, obviously, but I don't know. It just like, it's probably because it's been such a long time since I've seen this movie that
yeah.
I'm just like hyper fixated. I'm like, there's a lot going on here.
There's a
It's
lot.
very deep.
Yeah, I mean, Snow Queen, the Gerda is like it's about losing a friend to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
growing up and everything. Like Hansel and Gretel is about being abandoned to starve in the woods. Cinderella is abuse, like
Yeah.
it's yeah. So
But those,
Elsa,
I mean, what we're talking about, like
yeah.
there are messages that get ingrained in us, but others we just understand as traumatic and we feel for the characters, but it doesn't get it as ingrained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Elsa is so Anna's like, I wish it could be like this all the time. And Elsa's like, yeah, me too, but it can't. And Anna's like, and she's like, no, it can't be like that. And Anna is just like, and
Okay.
and she's just like, she's so sad. She's about to cry. So she's at her
Mm.
lowest and she gets knocked over. And who swoops in? Gaslight gatekeep
Hans.
girl boss Hans. And he
Uh,
swoops in and he's charming and they're walking around. And it's interesting because in this scene, she's the main one that's talking. Like she's just talking and he's listening.
yes, because he's giving her what she wants, which is just honestly someone to listen to her clearly
Yeah.
and finish her sandwiches.
Her sandwiches. And he mentions like she's like, yeah, I had these brothers and three of them pretend I was invisible for years.
And she's like, yes, we have shared trauma.
Trauma.
Because he's
Like
like,
it might be true that like this actually happened, but he was like, oh, I can pull that.
yeah.
It's clear. Because doesn't that happens after she's like, because she says, well, you know, we used to be really close, and all of a sudden she stopped talking to me. And he's like, I have a story about
I got
that
a story
in my own life.
Because yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to ask. Do you think his brothers were abusive, or do you think he's a liar?
Oh, they're older brothers. There's no way they weren't
And
abusive.
I'm an only child, so
Yeah.
but I also feel like if you have 12 older brothers, I think
And
the
they're
chances of having
royalty.
having
And
three of them
boys.
and having three of them who are literally going to be like ignoring you, I feel like the chances are pretty high of
Yeah.
that. You
Like,
know?
yeah, I could they're probably not all terrible.
Yeah, not all 13,
Yeah.
but some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta have a Judas in there. Where else is Lady Gaga gonna get her
I mean,
music?
I feel like for him to be the way he is, he got forged somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think that kingdom is brutal. And I think
The
Arendelle is
Southern
just,
Isles.
yeah, I think Arendelle's a tiny little kingdom that's like basically autonomous. Like, because that's the thing,
Yeah.
like usually the king dies and the next person inherits, but they've waited 3 years to coronate Elsa. You know, like
Well, is it because she didn't turn was because she needed to be like
Yeah, she
21
was
or something?
young.
yeah, I think which is pretty old by monarch standards,
Yeah. Yeah.
even in the 1800s, which is kind of set in. But yeah, it's the monarchy of Arendelle is fascinating to me because I'm like, I wonder if they need it because I feel like they're functioning fine.
Yeah. Yeah, because who was gonna be who was acting? Who was the consort?
We
Yeah,
don't
who's
know.
running? Regent, yeah.
Regent, yeah.
So they sing Love is an Open Door, right? And you see it now. I mean, I had people say, oh, when he said sandwiches, I knew that he was faking it.
I
But
don't believe that for a second.
I know,
I thought it was like it's a dumb thing that she
yeah.
said. Like,
And
come
I
on.
was so charmed by him. And the whole
Yeah.
movie, when I was watching the first time, I'm like, but she's the thing with Kristoff. But what about Hans?
It's
Oh.
it's the moment where you get that they're making fun of the princess narrative.
Yeah.
Because princes are most of them, except
No.
I think most of them so far they fell in love for the first prince that shows up in the story.
Yeah.
And it's poking fun of that. And
Yeah.
poking fun of that
Yeah.
makes it a genre. I'm just gonna bring it up.
Yeah. So in Hans, you know what? Hans is also he's hot. He's played by Santino Fontana from Broadway's Cinderella, not the bad Cinderella. He was also in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend
Mhm.
and later Tootsie. He was in the musical version of Tootsie. Why they made a musical of Tootsie, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, so he's just charming her and then they get engaged and
And
Right away.
listen, I side with Elsa on this. I was like, she's right. They're
She's
being
right.
crazy.
okay.
And like also and Anna's not like, okay, we're gonna get engaged and then we're gonna like wait a year. It's
Yeah.
we're gonna have a couple of days to plan the wedding and then we're just gonna do it. It's like she just got coordinated. Can't she just like live in this for a second?
Yeah. Yeah, way to
But
steal somebody's spotlight.
this is a moment where like society influenced the movie because in the past, if no one in the movie had said that was crazy, no one in our world would contest that and say
Right.
yes. But I feel like at that moment, 2003, we were of our society was already in a advanced position that even if Elsa hadn't said anything about it, our own collective concern would be like, wait a second, this is not how
Yeah.
it is nowadays. So I think
Right.
that Elsa needed to be like that for to as a and I think that was a good example of how society influenced
Yeah.
the evolution
Of the
of the
genre.
narrative.
Yeah, we have to buy into like, yeah, Anna wants to get married right away, and we have to like that idea
Yeah.
because otherwise, like her, like I don't know, like Han's existence like wouldn't play out right.
I do think, though, I think it's interesting how it's in a conversation with society almost, and society's perception of the genre more than the actual genre, because a wedding timeline is not provided in any Disney princess film. Like, yes, Cinderella's married at the end, but it's not like, and that was later that afternoon. Like, you kind of assume, well, they have to plan a royal wedding that at least takes a few months. You know, like that's
But in Ariel, in a Little Mermaid, they prep a wedding 3 days or less.
we don't know. We don't know. They kiss at the beach at the
No,
end.
no, I'm saying they prep the wedding
Oh,
with
the wedding with
Vanessa
Vanessa. Yeah,
real quick.
they do. So we don't know.
So we don't know.
But
But
it is because in the movie we're like, oh, they get married at the end. Whereas there's usually like you don't know. They don't specify. So I do think there are a lot of memes of the "you can't marry a man you just met," and I remember someone pointed out because it showed all the other Disney princesses crying after Elsa says that.
yeah.
And someone pointed out, interesting fact though, none of them are really crying about a man in any of those pictures, but okay. And I'm like, interesting. Yeah. So yeah, she says you can't marry a man you just met. But here's my take though. Is Elsa upset that Anna is getting married? Which I think she probably is.
Right.
But she's also, what really sets her off is they're like, we're gonna have people here. Your brothers are gonna come. And she's like, I don't want people.
Yeah.
I think Elsa puts herself first, which go off Queen of Arendelle. But I think that is what, like, I think if Anna was just leaving, I think she might say something, but she might be like, oh, well, that's easier for me.
Yeah, I think like she wanted to say it like right away. Like she thought like, no, this is crazy.
Because
But
it
they just kept
is,
talking
yeah.
and talking and talking. And as soon as they were like, well, oh, and Hans, you're gonna live here. And she was like, whoa, hold on a second.
Which is fair. If
Yeah.
someone was moving into my house.
Yeah, because it is her house now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, is he paying rent? Is he on the lease?
Yeah. What
Because
is his financial situation? He's 13th in line.
Which is I mean, now we understand after, but like at that moment, our society collectively tells that it's more common for the women to live for the husband's family. But then up to that moment there was the conversation was him coming to her. So that was already, I was like, set off, this is unusual.
Yeah, a red flag.
He's not
red flag. He really is.
A ginger.
A ginger.
I mean, okay, well, not gonna lie, I was gonna wait until we get to like the actual betrayal, but my friend Kevin, who's a ginger, me and a couple of our friends, we like forced him to watch Tangled and then Frozen with us, and he loved both movies. But literally, when like Hans did the betrayal, he was like, oh, just ruining ginger representation.
Yeah, I was more of a ginger when this movie came out, and "Love is an Open Door" became one of my karaoke songs. And
it's a song about two gingers falling in love.
Yeah. So Anna is like, okay, what did I ever do to you? She's like, this is the last straw, which I think the movie does a good job, even though Anna is objectively acting crazy, you like get like how she's gotten to this point. She's like, why are you doing this to me? Like, why are you ruining my life? Because Elsa's like, party's over, close the gates. Like a parent trying to like punish a toddler having a tantrum. Like, we're leaving the park. Like she's like, no fun for you. And Anna's just like, because she sees the doors closing on like her one chance of like having any kind of life. And Anna is like, why are you doing this to me? Why do you constantly shut me out? And she's like, I can't live like this. And Elsa is like, then leave. Bitch.
Yeah, because at this point, like I think Anna had grabbed the glove and she kind of freaks out about that.
And so, because she's like, I think it makes you realize that Anna has just been holding on to, like, she wants to have both. She wants to have Elsa and the outside world. And Elsa's like, you can't have me, like, just go after the outside world then. And it's heartbreaking. And then, no, I think then is when she pulls the glove. And everyone's getting, and then she's like, back off. And she does the ice.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, witchcraft. And my husband walked in and was like, all white people. And he's like, what is
Valid.
this? And then she's running around and like she freezes the fountain. Everyone's scared. And the main person who's like monster is Wesselton. And you know, Hans is
the red herring.
Yeah, he's like, she tried to kill me, and Hans is like, you slipped on some ice.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like, this is such a long con. Like this guy, like I got to give it to him. He's kind of good at manipulation because he's like, to other people who aren't even in this royal family, he's playing them. He's like defending
The
Elsa.
queen. Yeah.
Like it's kind of genius, and I hate him.
And well, it's because he's adapting as it goes. So he's not gonna do something.
Improv king.
He's not gonna do something drastic like kill the witch. Yes, and he's like, okay, she's an ice queen, and maybe that's okay. Okay. I'm not gonna say it's definitely okay. I'm just gonna
hot take, but like they kind of all people coming to the coronation, they all had the suspicion that there's something wrong. And they wanted to crack the secret. So I think he already had the plan to go in and get Elsa's trust and then do the trappy thing. Oh, I know your secret. Now you have to respect me because otherwise I'm going to tell. I think that was his original plan. But then when Anna came in, he was like, oh.
Here's an option.
Yeah, that's a different, but that's how I read it as his original plan is like, get Elsa's trust.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, he's smart. He's adaptable. Yeah.
It's the worst.
So Elsa runs off, freezing the lake. And the boats, and I'm just gonna say it, whatever's going on with the boats in this movie does not make like physical sense.
I said the same thing. I was like, those boats are never gonna recover.
Yeah,
it's not happening.
Then later when the ice melts, they're on a boat that was under the
freezes
ice.
And it cracks. And no, they're gonna be repainted.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna. People have critiqued this. I really don't care.
I don't.
People have critiqued the boats thing.
Yeah, the boats thing. People harp on the boats.
I didn't even hear. This is the first time I have done this discourse in my living room by myself. I was like, these boats never gonna recover.
Yeah,
everyone lives in Arendelle now. None of those people are going home.
But like, I just don't care enough because it's a fairy tale movie about a queen with ice powers. I'm like, the boats don't have to. Whatever.
I don't think I've ever cared. I'm sorry for the boat people. I
sorry to these boatmen.
I apologize to your sensibilities, but I never thought about it. I'm made aware today.
Wow.
Love that. I apology to the guy in SNL, the character, the guy who had just bought a boat. So she runs off and she changes the world right away. She sings Let It Go.
Yeah.
Which that song is, so initially Elsa was the villain and they wrote that song and they're like, well, she can't be the villain anymore. The song
Interesting.
And like, we really understand what she's going through.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly think that like, from the second like I see her, like I can't even consider her a villain. She's just an antagonist. She's like a hurdle. She's a thing that causes this event. But like I still feel so much for her the second I meet her. So it's like, that's crazy. But yeah, Let It Go. I enjoyed it this time actually. Because the animation is so good. It's so pretty.
It's except for the hair.
Oh, when the hair goes through the arm. Yeah.
You just have to mention that.
You know,
there's no way.
They had a lot going on with like the castle, and they're like, she looks fine.
Yeah.
She looks fine. That is the point that I made. I'm sorry about the boat people, but the hair got me.
The boat people are furious. Like really, the hair.
But like the hair
boats froze in the fjord.
Right, there's something I pay attention. I was like, there is no my. If I do that right now, my hand is not gonna go through that cleanly.
Yeah,
and it's blow dried. Imagine in braids.
Yeah. she's but she's going free. She's turning her dress into an ice dress. Elsa's powers very vague. I'm okay with it. I'm okay. It doesn't bother
I
me.
love it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what is her dress made of? Is it made out of like snow and ice? I don't care. I love it.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
It's got a beautiful slit. It's very tasteful. I love it.
My sibling who is attracted to women and was not out at the time when we saw this movie, and like she was doing the here I remember my sibling being like, oh, and like we thought it was like a prudish thing because she like Elsa was sexy,
like,
and now I'm like, oh,
well, it's because Elsa is sexy.
yeah. So Elsa's just my favorite closeted gay icon. Okay, so
She is. She's
yeah.
mine too.
So she sings Let It Go, iconic, the world gasped. And then Anna is like, I have to go after my sister. She leaves Hans in charge. And I'm like, insult to whoever has been running this kingdom for the past 3 years.
The actual like probably
government,
like an uncle.
Yeah,
the government, the parliament. Where are they?
Yeah. So
the council.
Hans is in charge. I'm like, they would not stand for this, but okay. And then she goes after Elsa, but like things happen. Her horse leaves her. She's all freezing. She finds Oaken's shop, run by Disney's first gay character. The first of 25 first gay characters. Read a whole BuzzFeed article about him as positive gay
Wandering
representation.
Oaken's trading post and sauna.
And there's like a little outfit ready for her that she's gonna buy, and
this scene is funny to me because it's literally like explaining like supply and demand economics.
Yeah.
He's like,
and I was like, wow, go off, I guess. Economists.
Kristoff comes in, he's all covered with snow, and he's like, yeah, I'm trying to sell ice, and Anna's like, that sucks. And then Kristoff is mad. He's
not nice to her.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, this is the real meet cute. It's that meet cute that reinforces the notion of like, if a boy is mean to you, he likes you. And I was like, you know what? Fuck you, Kristoff. Fuck you.
But I think that's not saying that. I don't think he likes her at first. I think he warms to her.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I mean, enemies to lovers. Tale as old as Pride and
so
Prejudice.
Hot.
Yeah. So he's all covered in snow, and then he's all mad at Oaken, and Oaken's like, I'll throw in a thing with my family, like you can go to the sauna where our family's at. And you see
there's like 5 kids.
There's like 5 kids, and there's a grown man. It's unclear. It's unclear. There's no obvious mother of these children. Yeah. And so that's where the gay representation comes in.
Right. Maybe that's his adult son.
Yeah, we don't know.
Or maybe it's his friend. It's his friend.
The 1800s.
His friend.
People die. People die. People have friends and people die. So we don't know. Yeah. So Kristoff sings "Reindeers Are Better Than People," our friend Alyssa's favorite song.
Literally, it started. I was like, "This is Alyssa's favorite number." It is pretty bad. And I will give her that.
You know, I sang this song as Grizzlies Are Better Than People. I went to college. Our mascot was the Grizzlies because I was an admissions ambassador, and I did a training video called "Don't Get Frozen on Panel" about how to be like a good panel, and like the Frozen characters were all the people on the panel, and they represented like different pitfalls you could fall into. Like Elsa was being too nervous, Anna was talking too much, Hans was lying. Yeah. I played Kristoff. Yeah.
A natural choice.
Because like Jonathan Groff,
who played Hans, is like, don't be an asshole.
Yeah. So Kristoff, again, hot. He is more aggressive than I remember, especially in Frozen 2 Kristoff.
Frozen 2 Kristoff is a sensitive little boy, essentially.
Yeah. And so it's a different character. But I mean, in a way, it's like Frozen 2 Kristoff is with him without his guard. Like he's putting up his masculinity.
Yeah.
You know. And Anna is like, I bought your shit, take me up the mountain. He's like, we'll go in the morning. She's like, no, we go now.
We're gonna go right now.
Right now. And so they're on the sled, and he's disagreeing with her decisions. And I'm like, girl, don't ever let a man tell you you're wrong.
But I mean,
she was, though.
This is the part that I was like, okay, this is where iconography, recognition of genre comes into Frozen, because because in the Disney, talking about the princess that came from the Walt Disney feature animated studio, meaning let's exclude Brave. Brave is a Brave is its
Brave is
own case.
Pixar. Yeah.
Brave is Pixar. Brave is its own case, and even though it breaks a lot of stereotypes, like there's no man in that story, blah blah. It is great. It does lots to evolve the genre, but because it's Pixar, it could be argued that is a one-off. It's just a different studio,
and it's not based on any story that people.
And it's not based on any story. So Frozen is still has the ancient since Snow White moment where the damsel needs a man. It's just more like in Snow White, it was a kiss and that was the end. It needs, and also all the dwarfs, because they were all men, helped her. So, but yeah, it evolved to a point where it was like, okay, that's the quest. There's a bigger moment, but she still needs the male figure to complete her journey, even though in Frozen it comes from Anna. She's doing it, and honestly, even if she Kristoff wasn't there, she was gonna try to do it anyway. So that's but like, to ensure the successability of her quest, she needed a man.
Which is also interesting because Kristoff is based off sapphic icon, the little rubber girl,
but they made him phallic.
I mean, he does talk about shoe size.
Ain't that some shit?
He does say, "What is his shoe size?" And she's like, "That doesn't matter."
It doesn't matter. And I'm like, sometimes it does.
Yeah. So that's like, Frozen did lots, and it pokes on the genre and it evolved thing, but it still has, you need a boy in your life to succeed.
And she, because he's like, "What's his last name?" She's like, "Of the Southern Isles." What's his best friend? What's his best friend's
Probably
name? Probably
John. It's like, these are all good answers. I mean, she's doing great.
Yeah.
So then I forgot about the wolves.
Yeah, the wolves.
I was like, well, how did they lose the sled? And then the wolves show up. I was like,
the same wolves from Beauty and the Beast. This is
the same wolves.
They're equity wolves.
But like,
they're in France.
They've traveled.
Wow. That was a long way. That mountain's far.
Just want to point out that conversation that they have where Kristoff is trying to make Anna convinced that she doesn't know Hans as much as she knows. We've seen a similar version of that in Enchanted.
Yeah.
Which also had the same outcome of the guy convincing the girl that she wasn't in love with the other guy, gets the girl.
Oh my goodness. Another movie I haven't seen so long.
Enchanted 2 coming out soon. We love Amy Adams. And so but he also keeps saying, "You married a guy you just met."
You were about to. Well,
and I'm like, you know what, Kristoff, I get the fucking joke. Like, stop beating
me. I get it.
But he's like, so she's like, well, let me help you like fight these wolves. He's like, I don't trust your judgment. I'm like, you know what? If she literally like is like, I'm gonna get married to this guy the same day I see him, I might not trust that person's judgment too. They're not clearly thinking through things.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's very Katy Perry's Waking Up in Vegas. But Anna going after Elsa, very Katy Perry's Unconditionally.
Unconditional.
I love that one though. That song hits the spot.
We need to write our jukebox musical
about Katy Perry. Yes.
Yeah.
So they're going up. The wolves chase them. There's a crash. Fast and the Furious. She's like, "I'll get you a new sled, but understand if you don't want to help me."
So dumb. Fast and the Furious.
And he's like, "Yeah, let's leave her to die." And then he's talking to Sven, and Sven's like, "You can't, like, that's not the right thing to do." And
okay, you say he's talking to Sven. He's talking to himself, and Sven is somehow
Sven
going
is
along
his
with it.
symbol of his like better half. He's like, Sven is love to him.
You know,
he's disturbed because he was raised by trolls, who, as we know, make demon mirrors. And how he went to troll school.
The Vampire Academy's offshoot troll school.
Yeah, they play them in football. So they're going up the mountain. They go to this like ice chandelier trees, and they meet Olaf, who likes warm hugs.
I
In love with an oven.
kind of the oven in the sky, you could say.
Yeah.
Um,
Oven sky.
it's Ra,
Yeah.
the god.
Raw. Yeah.
Um, I grew to hate Olaf as like Frozen became like a very big thing and stuff like that. And then I was like, Olaf. But then like he kept talking and saying those lines, and I was like, okay, he's actually grown on me again. He's
Yeah.
like the weird comedic relief that I didn't realize that movie needed.
We showed the movie to, I remember when I showed it to my parents, my dad's like, you know how dads will have like their kind of one-line response, whatever. He's like, that snowman could have been annoying, but he wasn't. That was my dad's review of Frozen.
Although I don't like his song. I still think his
Yeah,
song is stupid.
in summer's a skip.
It's too many layers of irony. Like, it's too many ironic references. I can't.
Yeah. But he's
No,
dreaming.
My favorite Olaf quote comes in Frozen 2 when he's like, Samantha?
Yes.
No, Samantha.
It's so good. And it's so dumb.
so
It's like,
good.
who came up with that? You're a genius.
Here's $5. So yeah, he's singing about how he dreams of summer, and that so he likes warm hugs, which is what that's how Elsa voiced Olaf when they made him as kids.
Mhm.
And Anna was like, I love you, Olaf. So Olaf is the embodiment of the love that Elsa has for Anna. Her love generates this life. And so that's why when Olaf is alive, she's like, you're alive? He's like, yeah. It's the first hint that like love is the strength in her power, not fear. That like love can like make life. Which is crazy. Elsa's a god.
Or she's a heterosexual couple.
I
mean, that's how life happens.
In a
lot of ways.
You
need some certain substances to do things.
I do remember leaning out my window once, hoping for a snow day in college, and it was snowing, and being like, "Let it go, Elsa, let it go." So they're going up the mountain, and they're like, "Okay, what's your plan?" And Anna's like, "I'm gonna talk to my sister," and Kristoff is like, what?"
Yeah.
The whole kingdom relies on you talking to your sister, and she's gonna climb the mountain. He's like, "Okay, you can't do this." And then Olaf is like, "There's an ice staircase right here."
Duh.
And they go up, and Kristoff is like, "This is amazing. Ice is my life." And Anna's like, wait, like last time about a guy, she freaked out. But there's this moment where she's about to knock on the door. She's been knocking her whole life. Elsa leaves. She falls off that mountain to knock on the door. Unconditional Katy Perry.
And then fucking Olaf is like, does she not know how to knock? And I died. It's like, why is that funny to me?
It's just, and it's funny because there's this emotional moment going on, but to keep it from being too sentimental, they like have a joke. But you see, it's like Anna's not listening. She's not like, I know how to knock. She's just in the moment. She knocks. The door opens, and the door finally opens, and Elsa's there, and she's like, I came up to find you. And Elsa's like, oh, thank you, but like it's dangerous, like go away. And then Olaf comes out, and she's like, what? And he's like, I made you. And then Anna is like, we can do this. We can head down this mountain together. First time in forever reprise, later cut from the Broadway and replace with a new song. They replaced it with I Can't Lose You, which is not a bad song, but this song explains their relationship more and their dynamic. Because
it's good.
Elsa or Anna just has this unwavering love. Like, we can do this together. Like, now I know. She's like, what was keeping us apart was that I didn't know what was going on with you. But now I know, and I love and accept you. I trust that you won't hurt me.
Yep.
She remembers that love. And
Elsa's like, I can't. Ice powers.
Yeah. She's she's doing her as the snow flies around, she blasts Anna's heart and freezes her heart, and Kristoff catches her, and he's all kind of like, I thought she wouldn't hurt you, and she's like, and she sends the snowman after them, I think his canon name is Marshmallow, but the giant snow monster.
Yeah.
But Anna does not have the power of Christ on her side, apparently, and so she's getting chased by this snow
Power of
monster.
God and anime,
On
not
her
there.
side. Yeah. And so they fall down the cliff or whatever, they escape, and then they're like, he's like, "What's wrong with your hair?" And it turned white, and she's like, "Does it look bad?" And he's like, and Olaf is like, "You hesitated." Which it's a
course.
funny joke, but now watching it, I'm like, on it, like, I feel like in that situation, she wouldn't be like, "Oh, does it look bad?" Like she just fell off a mountain. Though she does say, like, you try falling off a mountain and see how you look.
Yeah.
But so he's like, I know love experts. We're gonna go to them. Meanwhile, Hans is running Arendelle. They see Anna's horse. They're gonna go get Elsa.
Yeah. He leaves. Who's in charge? Is it finally the
Wesselton?
people who should be in charge?
Yeah.
No, I think it's probably just like the council.
Yeah, the Privy Council.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the
just
thing
like,
monarchies have, right? Parliament.
yeah. And I was just like, so why weren't they just in charge this whole time? Because he's like, I need volunteers. Let's go. And it's like, okay, so if you're not in charge,
Who is?
what's happening? This is chaos.
Wesselton sends his men, his assassins,
lackeys.
his lackeys. I mean, and there are like people are like freezing and they're like, get in the castle. We have like hot stew, you know, or glog. And yeah, so they're running after Anna and they go to the castle, they fight the snow monster, the assassins get in, they're gonna kill Elsa, and she's gonna kill them. And Hans is like, improv king. He's like, don't be the monster. Don't be the monster.
Yep, don't be the monster they think you are.
And which is why she sings Monster in the Broadway musical. Banger. He kicks up the crossbow, so it hits the chandelier and it falls on Elsa.
She dives dramatically.
Yeah. Great trailer moment.
Yeah.
And then Kristoff takes her to the trolls and she's like, "There's a bunch of rocks. You're crazy." And then they start talking about that they roll around and they're little people and they're happy to see Kristoff. The mom wants him to strip.
Yeah, she's gonna do his laundry. Sorry, that's a red flag. You don't know how to do your laundry. I'm sorry. Sorry to this man. I can't.
And the troll is talking about, I got my fire crystal, and I'm like, are the trolls just doing like Legend of Zelda quests in the mountains?
They're like the little Boy Scouts. That's the Boy Scouts.
And
Troll Scouts.
They're like, he brought a girl home. They sing, that's time to sing Fixer Upper, which it's a song everyone forgets.
It's okay, so the song is weird.
The last one in the movie
has multiple like themes and layers to it that like kind of go together. But literally there's that one section where they're like, well, she says she's engaged. That's a flexible thing. We can work with that. We'll just get rid of him. And it's like, you don't know her fiance. You don't know what's going on. And you're literally going to like trick marry her.
To Kristoff.
A guy who can't do his own laundry.
Who they kidnapped.
And who they're suggesting her needs to fix him up.
Yeah,
she needs to fix him. I
don't like that message.
No, I don't either, because you can't fix someone. You can't do it.
And you shouldn't influence a young woman to do that.
And it shouldn't be expected of you. Like, if you're an asshole, I'm not going to help you not be an asshole. Sorry.
They reference that he has unmanly blondness.
Yeah, which I was like problematic.
That he pees in the woods. I'm like, where else is he peeing? You live in the woods.
There is no plumbing.
And that he has a thing with the reindeer that's a little outside of nature's laws.
And I'm like, why are you bringing bestiality to this? Like, don't address this. Don't even bring this up.
Yeah. I mean,
do we still love this movie? Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. But yeah. So
is there a bestiality joke in it? Yes. These things both exist at the same time.
The trolls are because then they have the line, we're not saying you can change him because people don't really change. Because it's like,
then what the fuck is this song about?
They're saying love is
because a fixer-upper is a house that you fix so you can sell it or like to live in it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna apply that to a person, it's like, oh, well, they can't really change. It's like, then you're not a fixer-upper. You're a lost cause. I don't know.
And they're saying love is a force that's powerful and strange. You know,
May the force be with you.
May the force be
Is
with
is this a
you.
Star Wars reference?
Yeah.
That's a thing. That's a Disney property now.
And people make bad choices, but you just gotta send a little love their way. I
Yeah, what is
think
this song about?
it's
I don't know.
they're like, we need a fun song with the trolls. Like that's
Yeah.
they're yeah.
I've heard they cut a Kristoff song that was supposed to happen in Frozen,
Interesting.
and I would just really want to know which one that was. I was like, maybe they should have cut Fix Her Upper and brought the Kristoff song.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's inconsequential because like they're literally like setting up this marriage ceremony, and then Anna they're like, yeah, you're gonna get married, and then she like passes out.
Yeah. And he sees her in the troll garb, and that's his moment where he's like, she's banging. He loves her in the authentic troll garb. He loves some troll cultural appropriation. Yeah.
I hate this message.
Hannah's like,
I don't
can't
like this
unpack that.
message. I don't
No,
like this
I don't
message.
like it.
Yeah, so she's dying. They're like, oh, they need true love, and he's like, true love's kiss, maybe an act of true love because her heart is frozen.
And
Bobby can't heal that.
people didn't think twice about that message. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
When it came out, or even today, if we hadn't stopped and like, let's dissecate this movie, we wouldn't get there. It's
No.
ingrained in us.
Yeah.
I
And
hate
so-
it. Blood boiling.
Blood
Blood boiling.
The ice palace is melting behind Mar right now. Boiling. So he's running off on the reindeer on Sven with Anna. He's like, I gotta get her back to Hans, because Kristoff does respect her relationship with Hans, which I think is key.
Yes.
And so he takes her back to the palace or the castle, and meanwhile Elsa's trapped there, and Hans is like, end the winter, and she's like, I can't, and Hans is like, okay, I need to go reassess.
Mm-hmm.
I need to figure out why. Also, those chains, that prison cell was probably built by her parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you think it's just like it's just the prison cell that they have for any old, or do you think it's for her when she like has this thing?
Because the
inevitable
cuffs go
thing
around her whole hand. They don't just like do the wrist.
I think
so
it
you
was
don't
for
think
her.
really?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
the
so
parents,
fucked up.
the parents were there when she got warned that she could go haywire.
And so they literally were like, we're gonna be prepared for this.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so
oh my God.
Yeah, so then so Hans is like, okay, what's gonna happen? So they take Anna back, and he's like, bring her to Hans. And so he get reunited, and she's like, you need to kiss me. And everyone's like, oh yeah, we don't want to watch like these two 18-year-olds make out, like we're gonna step back. And he like puts her up, and he's like, so what's going on? And she's like, oh, I need true love's kiss because she froze my heart. And he's like, I thought she would never hurt you. And she's like, I guess she did. And you see that she's in the slow point, but she's like all about Hans now. And then he does, this is the biggest twist in cinematic history.
Yeah.
I will stand by it. No,
not I see dead people, not that he was dead the whole time. Spoilers for Sixth Sense. It's this. You're absolutely right.
This shook me. My heart broke. Scoops her up, like puts her on, and is like, oh, Anna, if there's only someone out there that loved you.
That's so fucking rude. Because he read her. He knows everything about her. Like he knows that she just wants love and attention. He's like, and nobody fucking loves you. That bitch.
I remember the audible, loud, collective gasp in the theater when that happened. It was a moment. Everyone felt it.
Yeah,
for kids movie, that's intense.
I just remember my heart like dropping and like breaking, being like,
like,
and I had been wondering, like, well, what's gonna happen with Hans and Kristoff? This is a more intense love triangle than anything the Hunger Games gave me, or Twilight. Like, I don't know which one I want her to be with. And it's like, oh, like, and he's putting out the fire, and he's just like, yeah, like this is
he's monologuing. He's like,
monologuing.
Well, this is what's gonna happen next.
And he fucked up.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have said anything.
He shouldn't have said anything because Anna knows, and he's like, yeah, I was gonna just marry you and like kill Elsa basically, and then I could be king. And I'm like, but would you be like a Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, like second string king, depending how this monarchy works?
Right.
Succession laws. So
No,
he's
but he was. Oh no, yeah. Now she's gonna die. So
yeah. And so this, I have some questions here, but then so he's like, yeah, he just is like, he's killing her. Like he's putting out the warmth, he's locking her away, and he's locking the door. Like, no one's gonna come find you. No one loves you. No one gives a shit. Bye. And he's like partially right because like all the ambassadors are just he's
They
like,
don't they don't
check.
go and check on her. They just trust what he says, and it's like
because he's
that's
a
so fucked
man.
up.
He's a
Yeah.
man. But
It's
also,
so
why do
fucked
these
up.
foreign ambassadors get to decide what happens to this kingdom? Like, where's the parliament? Where's Great Aunt Gretel?
You know, there wasn't enough budget for those assets.
Those assets,
Yeah.
yeah. And so Hans is like, yeah, she's dead, and we said our marriage vows. And I'm like, where are the receipts?
Yeah, we need receipts. We need witness. Like, just because you're like, yeah, we got married, it's like that doesn't count.
There's
Like, we're
a
not gonna hand you the keys to the kingdom. Oh no, we are. Here you
We
go.
are. I'm like, yeah, there's no priest there, no bishop, no
Yeah.
witnesses, no one's checking the body. Like until like they had bedding ceremonies to make sure that marriage was consummated.
Yep.
Like if they didn't fuck, like that marriage wasn't legally binding.
Yep.
You know, like that's still very recent in history, and still religiously is true. That's why the difference between an annulment and a divorce. And and like so I'm like, no, someone would have checked. Like he couldn't have done this without paperwork. Like until she gave birth to an heir, it still wasn't entirely like down pat.
Legit.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, it's because they're foreigners. They're foreign men trying to colonize Arendelle. Again, as we said in our Brothers Grimm episode, white people want to be victims of colonialism so bad. So Anna is dying, and Kristoff sees the storm because Elsa's freaking out and escaping, and that's why he goes back, because Sven is like, go back. Kristoff himself, as Sven is saying, go back for her, and he's like, she's with her fiance, but he sees that she's in trouble.
Yep.
And that's what gets him to go back. So he's on the reindeer, he's running, Olaf gets there, and Olaf is like, what happened? What's wrong? He's so sweet. And she's like, Hans didn't love me. And he's all like, oh no. And he puts up the fire, and she's like, you're melt. And he's like, some people are worth melting for. And she's like, basically like, no one loves me. And he's like, you don't know much about love. Like, Kristoff loves you. Or he doesn't say Kristoff loves you. He's like, well, that's why love is putting someone else's needs before your own. Like when Kristoff left you here with Hans. And she's like, Kristoff. And then he's like, oh, Kristoff is coming. I guess he doesn't love you that much to leave you. And she's like, no. And then he's like, so they're escaping. I just loved Olaf in this scene.
Yeah.
I think he represents the innocence kind of too. And this like innocent love of just like he'd sacrifice himself for Anna because he's the manifestation of Elsa's love for Anna.
Yeah, and if you think about like their relationship, like they've only known each other a couple of days so that he's been born, basically. Also, what's his name? Kristoff hasn't known her that long, loves her. Like all these people who have just recently come into her life love her so much.
Because she's a lovable person. Yeah. Like you would love Anna if you knew her.
You would.
Yeah. So they're chasing. Kristoff is chasing after her. Elsa's running around, storms happening. Hans is coming after her because he declared her guilty of treason. I'm like, treason against who? She's the queen.
But yeah, that's why I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Just because it's like, I feel like it doesn't go that way. Like if she killed her sister, would that actually be treason? Wouldn't it be treason if she killed? Yeah. It would be regicide.
Yeah.
Or not regicide. No, it would be regicide if she did it, if Anna did it.
So Hans is after her, and Anna is fighting. She's struggling to get after Kristoff. It is a fight each step of the way. The stakes in this moment are so high.
And her hair is like fully white.
Her hands are icing over.
Frozen. Yeah, she's got frostbite.
I remember in the theater just being like, oh my God. Like it was just so intense. and the boats are doing weird shit that makes no
Because they're
physical
walking
sense.
on the fjord. They're just like
Yeah.
walking on this frozen water, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's breaking and stuff, and then
It's where they original fairy tale Kai
the
was
lake.
found in the frozen lake.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. And then Elsa is just like upset, and Hans is like, Anna's dead. You killed her. And it's obviously Elsa's worst fear. Like, this is the
Yeah.
thing she was always afraid of happening. It happens. And
Yep.
she collapses and it's all frozen. And Anna sees Kristoff running towards her, and she's like, this is my chance. But she sees Elsa in trouble.
Yeah. Hans literally pulls a sword, is about to like slice her up.
Yeah, and Anna's like, I can't. And she finds the strength to get there.
Yeah.
She gets there and she freezes. And again, people complain that the sword breaks on the ice, and that wouldn't happen. I'm like, it's magic ice.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very simple explanation. It's like it's not the same kind of ice.
It's a person turning into ice.
Yeah.
And Elsa is like, oh my god, Anna. Like, she's like sobbing, and everyone's so sad. It's that moment. And then her heart warms first, and then the rest of her body.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's because Anna saves herself. It's not Elsa's love, it's Anna's love for Elsa.
Yeah.
Anna's love. And
I never had thought about that
it's
this way.
Yeah, and that's why when the people are trying to be like, this is some anti-Christian propaganda, I'm like, this is in a way very Christian, because sacrificing yourself for your loved ones is like the whole Jesus thing. And she's, doing that. She's that self-sacrificial love, and that's what saves her, and that's what saves the kingdom and everyone, like her willingness to lay down everything for the people she loves. And
it's an act of true love. Like,
yeah,
the act of true love isn't Elsa or hugging her frozen sister.
It doesn't need to be a kiss.
Yeah. It's literally Anna sacrificed herself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also
and
because
that's what feminism.
That's a feminism. It's like, you do it for you, girl. But it's also like because that moment when Elsa was crying like that, I was expecting her villain origin story. Boom. She's no queen. Bye-bye. But then with Anna's selfless acts and love for Elsa, I think that's what trumped that. I hate this word. Let's cut it off.
Yeah.
That's what stopped.
Triumphs.
Yeah, that's what stopped the villain origin story, the transformation into this snow queen.
Yeah, it could have been just a few like that slight difference. If she had lost Anna, she would have lost everything that was like keeping her connected to her humanity.
Yep.
And but Anna's love saved her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love it. I love this moment. And and then Elsa kind of puts it together like, oh, love is what will end the winter. She scoops up all the ice. We see children with a flower box, like in the fairy tale.
Yeah.
And then Hans is like, your heart was frozen. And Anna's like, the only frozen heart is you, bitch. And she punches him. And he's sent back to the kingdom for his brothers to deal with. I'm like,
bye-bye.
Yikes. His head's in a bucket at one point, and I'm like, never noticed that detail before. And Wesseltown or whatever, they're like, we don't trade with you anymore.
Yeah.
And so
he did try to have the queen assassinated.
Yeah, that is treason.
That's treason.
Yeah,
that's attempted regicide. And,
that should have been locked
easy.
up in the dungeons.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Elsa's like, I'm feeling generous today.
So Kristoff and Anna are together now. She has him blindfolded. She runs him into a pole, like the time I ran into a pole in Pan Pacific Park. And then she got him a new sled, and he's like so happy. He's like, I'm so happy I could kiss you. He's like, can I kiss you? May? Like, it's all awkward.
May we?
Like, may we? And she's like, we
love a man that asks, though.
Yeah. We love a man that asks for consent.
That's what Kristoff
finally a good message between those two.
So they kiss. It's great. And Olaf has his little flurry that lets him live. And Elsa makes an ice rink.
And ice skates.
Ice skates. Yeah.
Yeah, she she
Oh,
she makes ice skates for her. Again, what are these powers? I don't know,
I don't
but I
know,
love
but
them.
the whole world in ice skates. Anna gets everything she wants and ice skates at the end.
Which is what
Wow.
Kai wanted.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I just thought it was like a fun little ending. It
Yeah.
actually ties together.
She want
Wow.
and it's because now she has like she's in a community, her kingdom, she has her sister, she has love. That's just what she wanted. And that's great.
She wanted connection, and her parents were like, no, I'm going to isolate both of you from each other.
Yeah. Uh so that's
How to
Frozen.
not to parent.
How not to
Yeah, I mean,
parent
really.
Frozen. Yeah.
But I mean, their punishment was death. So
Yeah, they bottom
they
of the
died.
ocean. Yeah. Let's talk about the vibes and aesthetic of this world. What do we think of Arendelle and the world of Frozen?
Um, it's
I
honestly, I prefer it as winter than I did in like the springtime. I don't know.
it's just like I don't think it did much to that difference to me because it just still seems like an European old
Yeah.
kingdom, which is what
Yeah.
we see most. So it wasn't innovative in that setting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very classic Disney. I mean, it's very much more specific to a particular part of Europe than
Right.
typical. Like it's very Germanic or not Germanic, Nordic.
Mhm.
And that makes it very hard to color in a coloring book. I will say that. Speaking from true
Why?
experience, because those dresses have so many details.
Oh, right. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
But it's still pretty classic Disney. The animation already feels a little dated, at least
Yeah,
maybe compared to Frozen 2, but I'm like, oh, some of this is
I liked like some of like the snow falling stuff.
yeah,
The ice castle I think is really cool. But yeah, it a lot of the movement for me
yeah,
felt a little yeah.
yeah, which is crazy because like we watched like Black Cauldron, which is from the 80s, and like the
Yeah.
movement doesn't feel stiff at all.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Um Trolls are the only non-Elsa magic. They're fine, I guess. Character design, my note is in all caps, everyone is hot. All the
Well,
leads are
Duke of
hot.
Wesselton, really?
All the leads. The
Okay.
four
I
Okay.
feel
leads.
like I feel like they I feel like they did a better job at texturing them in Frozen 2, though. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like in
Oh
Frozen 1
yeah.
they still feel a little rubbery in that
Mm-hmm.
sense. And
Yeah.
also, I don't know, like I think I saw this critique where most female characters look like little baby aliens if you take the hair off. And I think both for Anna and Elsa do look like baby aliens.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
a Disney and all animation problem more than a
It
specifically
is, it
Yeah.
is,
Frozen.
it is.
Yeah.
It's just because they seem very like describe them. Do you know what I mean? Like as if the epitome of that, the one
Yeah.
where we
Yeah.
can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
They
Characters,
are
it's sort
beautiful.
of fine. It's yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot of stuff to say about like the actual design.
It's
It's
very
really
No,
mostly
classic
yes.
about the
Disney.
music.
I think
Yeah.
it was beautiful. I think it was beautiful. I think the visual development in this movie was done very, very well, like
Hmm.
aesthetically pleasing,
Hmm.
especially in the musical numbers, I think. Every
Yeah.
the magic was so
Yeah.
Yeah.
satisfying.
Yes, that's a good way. Yeah, the music is the big aspect of this movie. I think the music made this movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, these are some of Disney's biggest bops, but some of them are meh. So my ranking of the music goes, okay, we start with the great. First Time in Forever, Let It Go, Love is an Open Door, Do You Want to Build a Snowman, the little intro song, Rangers Are Better Than People, then we're in the meh, and then it's Fixer Upper Frozen Heart in summer.
Mm, interesting. So your favorite is
First Time in
First Time in
Forever.
Forever.
Open up the
Interesting.
gates, bam, that moment.
That's true. It does slap.
It's
I mean,
last.
it's quite a beat drop.
I think For me, Do You Want to Build a Snowman is my favorite, and then Let It Go. They're
Nice.
almost on the same level, but I just feel like Let It Go climaxes my feelings, which is
Mhm.
Yeah.
amazing. But I think Do You Want to Build a Snowman takes me into a journey, and I love being taken to a journey. I love when things make me feel. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what I'm feeling, but like when it brings feelings
Mhm.
into the game, I tend to love. And I think Do You Want to Build a
Yeah.
Snowman made me feel a lot.
Yeah, it kind of it starts as like this like cutesy, she's playing around, but then it's like very somber.
Yeah.
So it does have like a very wide range of emotion. I think my favorite is probably the reprise of First Time Forever slash, well, I guess,
It's mainly First Time in Forever.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what it is. Because I do like the moment where she's like, I can't. I think that
Yeah.
like that combination of like the music is really, really powerful. Um, I, it's funny. I never really liked Love is an Open Door when I first watched it. I thought that like Kristen Bell's voice was way too high in it, and I would never be able to do it at karaoke. Just gonna say that.
Yeah.
But watching it this time, because I was so focused on sort of like how they're playing, like you said, with the tropes and stuff, and how I'm seeing like Hans, I'm seeing the things that they're laying seeds for. I was sort of kind of enraptured by it. But yeah,
I
that's
think
Let
Loves
It
and Open
Go.
Doors is genius.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just kind
Genius.
of
Plot
is.
wise, genius.
Well, even lyrically, the
Yeah.
whole idea of that, like her door's been closed in her face her whole life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that love is just open. It's possibility,
Yeah.
and that's not entirely a wrong sentiment. You just have to make sure you're loving the right person.
Yeah. And on that note, because like that like Hans is improving, he's
Yeah.
improv king, and he's manipulating her. Like there's something really interesting about how they're doing that in the song. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of layers in that
I
song
feel
that I
like
just didn't appreciate
Frozen is a
before.
good example of like plot first because it looks beautiful,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but it looks beautiful. The songs are catchy and everything, but if none of that were as tied into with the plot, as enthralling as the plot was, it
Mhm.
wouldn't have banged the way it banged.
And would have
Yeah.
banged it, which is very key when we talk if we talk about Frozen 2.
Hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it once in theaters, haven't seen it since. So
Oh, what?
I didn't like I liked it, but I wasn't as taken with it as I was the first one. And I think maybe it's probably just like the Frozen fatigue. I was still feeling
Yeah.
it. So
Frozen 2 is my favorite Disney movie of all time. I watch it every birthday. I try to time it to midnight when she's singing
Show yourself.
So Yourself.
mm.
I love Frozen 2 and I cry. It is Frozen 2.
We will have
People
you
don't give
back.
it much love
Frozen 2.
as
Yeah, seriously, we'll have
I.
to have you back.
Uh yeah, so I guess let's talk about the characters. We've talked about them a lot, so I mean this won't be a super, but like Anna, I would say Anna is a hero. She is so strong and flawed. I relate to her a lot, and I think if there was a Disney character that was like me, at least me when I was young, it's definitely Anna.
Yeah.
Uh
In the
Yeah.
best way. Cause like, yeah, she's like really naive but I don't think it's
that was
just
me at
like
18, which is
but
how to
yeah,
go.
and I don't know,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's like necessarily like a bad thing because like it's not her fault, and like you
Yeah.
understand it, and she's not doing it in spite of anything. It's just like that's just how she is, and it's endearing. She's very endearing, and I root from her from the second I see her.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to brag. I don't think I'm Anna, but like I recently asked my roommate which animated character she think would be me, and she said Anna, and I was like, why? Anna? She doesn't have power. So that's
I
but
want
then
ice powers.
she said, oh no, because she's so easy to love. And I was like, don't melt my heart. But then she said, and she's silly and goofy. And I was like, okay, I'll take that one. I'll
Yeah,
take that
Uh-huh.
critique. I'm silly and goofy.
yeah. I'd probably be Kristoff.
Yeah.
I feel honestly, I kind of feel like, you know, But I can do my own laundry.
Yeah.
But I choose not to because I'm lazy sometimes.
So I think Anna is an interesting subversion of a Disney princess in that most Disney princess movies follow this format where the princess's worldview is proven correct. So like you have a contrast between like in Cinderella, let's say the stepmother is this like cold, jealous person who's always who sees everything like I get this, so you can't. And Cinderella's like warm and loving and optimistic, and Cinderella's proven right, or Ariel, right, is like, I want to see the world above and people aren't that bad. And her dad's like, no. And then Ariel's right. Pocahontas is like, I love trees and nature and freedom, and I don't want to be tied down. And like that path is proven right. And also the way she views nature is proven better than the white settler colonialists.
Yeah.
That movie is still white propaganda. But yeah, so like that's almost all the Disney princess movies follow this format. Even like, Rapunzel wants to see the lights, she wants to get out and see the lights, and that's proven correct. But
it's proven correct that she sees the lights.
she does see the lights, but like that the world isn't bad outside. She's like scared that it's bad, but she doesn't want to admit, and the world isn't bad. And so this is an interesting because Anna is right. Like her love, her willingness to love, and that true love is so powerful, is what saves her. But it's not how she thought. Like she still faces like Hans betrays her. And I think that's such a way to modernize the genre,
That's so wow, I never thought about that way. I think I saw it more through behavior. And I didn't see Anna as having that innovative behavior, because if you see all the princesses all the way to Tiana, they all have a regalness to them. They all are well behaved. That's the word, they're regal in that point. Even Tiana, who is like one of the first one to show independence or the will for independence, and which it was very new, she still had a regal attitude and a regal behavior. But then when you saw Tangle was the messy one. She was messy.
Yeah.
She was fun. She was different. She didn't have heels on,
She was a post Zooey Deschanel princess.
Yeah. So when I saw post Zooey Deschanel princess, when I saw Anna, she felt a little of a dial down from Rapunzel. Because she had the same attitude, but she still was a princess and regal in that sense. So that it was a dial down. So I didn't critique it because I think like balance is everything, and I think you showed Rapunzel when she was a princess, but a different princess. And I also feel like it's important to show girls that like you can be fun and still a princess. So I liked Anna's behavior. But I didn't see her as innovative as you just mentioned, but you're absolutely right. I just was focused on behavior more than general.
There's so much to look at in these movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's how I think it's a good balance, right? Like you said. And then Elsa, I feel for her. She's not the hero or the protagonist of this story, but she's an interesting character, and I think she's someone you can connect with, and I get why she's so popular because she has ice powers, right? And she has a gorgeous dress. But she's not the heart of the movie the way Anna is, but she's still great. She's still an interesting character. Like I want her to be okay at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
You just want her to accept herself. And then Kristoff is hot. I love him. He's grumpy, but also like funny and lovable. Love Kristoff. Do we buy the romance between Kristoff and Anna?
I think I buy the romance.
Yeah.
Because we saw them fall in love. We saw them not liking each other on top and then falling in love.
Yeah.
Which is more than most princess movies we could tell.
And they're not even like engaged at the end of the movie. They're just like dating. They're just starting again. Yeah.
It's realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sven, great. Olaf, great. Sven. The parents, abusive, sorry. Let's talk about the antagonist. We've talked a lot about Hans. Improv king. I think he's the best Disney twist villain. He's the last
Is
time it
the
was,
one.
yeah, it's like the last time it was really impactful. And I think he's the end of the Prince Charming deconstruction. So Prince Charming as a term comes from The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So already in its initiation, it was referring to someone who looked handsome and was not on the inside. And so then it kind of Disney took it over. But the last time there was a straight up Prince Charming, I live in a castle and I'm hot, was The Little Mermaid in 1989. So by the time 2013 Frozen, Disney wasn't using this trope all the time. I think Mars right in pointing out like how it plays with the genre expectations.
It played. I think we weren't seeing a Prince Charming to a T, like a man who was a prince who was charming, but the male figure, the trope of the Prince Charming was present in, besides Brave, all of them.
Yeah.
Until Raya.
Yeah. And there's Naveen also though in Princess and the Frog.
There is Naveen.
But he's a frog and he's poor and it's but so Prince Charming had already been like deconstructed.
Yeah, it was being deconstructed, but it was a slap in the face because then we went back to the actual Prince Charming character, not the trope Prince Charming.
Yeah.
And then they deconstructed that as a fuck you to the trope.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it was shocking because it was a Disney princess movie that did it. Yeah. So we had been Into the Woods had done it, you know, with the princes there. Shrek 2 and 3 had Prince Charming as the villain.
Talk about a cultural reset. Shrek
2. There was a dumb prince in what's that called? Happily Never After. So the prince had been deconstructed. There's also the Fables comics had Prince Charming as like a divorcee, like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty and stuff were all his past
but
wives.
It's kind of like all those other fairy tales outside of Disney had already started poking its knives on the Prince Charming because it's a thing that society has been doing, you know, like the feminist rhetoric has been growing and we've been seeing everywhere.
The feminists are taking over.
It was so iconic to do that on Disney because Disney was the one who started. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
they were the setting of the genre. They were the one that brought it to life, and they were the ones that needed to acknowledge the shift in society for it to be established.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Like, I think Disney doing it is what made it so big and so iconic. And I think we're done deconstructing Prince Charming. I don't think that's a hot take anymore. I'm not saying you can't do like a villain prince. I'm just saying like it's not. People are like,
well, they made it a girl in Raya, so that was pretty big.
But like people be like, the prince isn't so charming, and I'm like, yeah, okay, Frozen did it. It's over. Like it peaked. We did it. We deconstructed Prince Charming, and now to me it's edgier when you just straight up like do a prince. Like even in the Snow White remake, their prince is going to be like a Robin Hood figure because the prince is so deconstructed. Like they already took the prince out of Rapunzel, right? They made him a thief. You know, they switch. You know, so it's like I love what they do in Frozen with it, but I do think it's like the peak. Like it was the best. It like got it so well, and like we can do other deconstructions now.
We can move on now.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why he's a great villain. Message.
So many themes. I have to go back to it because
I mean, I'm saying true love conquers all, baby. I think they're just expanding the definition of true love.
Which is so iconic and so nice for society.
Is iconic. Yeah.
It's like, yes, love is way beyond
a man and a woman.
And a man and a woman. It's beyond that. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's something that I always, as a person, I've struggled since as a kid. I was like, I hate the fact that society tells me that your husband is more important than your family, and your family is more important than your friends. Like the love hierarchy, I struggled when I was a kid, and I still do, but I feel like we're starting, especially Gen Z, starting to break it down, this hierarchy. And I feel like Frozen helped it because it put self-love and familial love on the forefront before romantic love. And it beyond putting it in front of it, it twisted romantic love as dangerous, potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, I think because we talked in our first episode in the Brothers Grimm, there was a moment that like felt like it was supposed to be like sibling love and it was like a joke. And I was like, we really weren't ready for Frozen in 2005. You know, like this was a big movie. And Frozen took a story that was very marketed towards a specifically Christian audience and found the universal themes that people from all backgrounds could connect with. You know, and I think that's why it's such a powerful movie. Also, there's the message of like, don't hide yourself and shut people out. Like,
Yeah,
let people
don't
Please
shut away your
don't.
child. Express your feelings in a healthy way. Don't play in the snow or ice without your parents around. That's what I have written around.
And you're the thing that makes that you're so scared that everyone will hate you for, you know, that maybe that person will love it about you. Like Anna loved Elsa's powers, and they're beautiful and they're good. Like she doesn't,
it's part of who she is.
Yeah, like the Anna's love doesn't like undo the powers. It's not a curse that needs to be broken, like Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
It's like, no, like now you just know how to use it better.
Yep. Have confidence in yourself.
Yeah. So now I guess it's time for a big question. Was that your fantasy? I'm gonna say yes. That was my fantasy. I loved it. I love to live in Arendelle. And I love this story.
Yeah, I like this movie a lot, and I'm glad like I hadn't seen it in a while. Like I was able to come out with fresh eyes, and also like I think it's really fun to have discourse and still like the movie, and that doesn't happen to me very often. So it definitely was my fantasy. I love discourse.
I want to say,
but I also like liking movies.
I want to say that was the beginning of my fantasy, because it's going to be my fantasy when you talk about Frozen 2. Then that's my fantasy. This one is the
this is the
setting up.
pre-fantasy. Yes.
It's the setting up, it's the beginning of my fantasy. The prologue.
Yeah.
The origin story of my fantasy.
And our last question, what did we learn today?
Don't abuse your children.
Don't abuse your children.
I just
please don't shut people out. Open the door. People love and care about you.
I feel like every time I said that, my brain got flabbergasted by what Cullen was saying. You know, like I think you showed me different perspectives that I just hadn't stopped to think about because I was focusing on other parts of other things.
But I mean, so same. You
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned. I was like, wow. Yeah. So I think I appreciate Frozen more than when we started this conversation.
Yeah.
Aww.
I love that about this podcast. That has happened honestly every single episode we've done. And we haven't done that many, but still, that's pretty significant.
Yeah. I hope the listeners feel the same.
Yeah.
So Mar, is there anything you'd like to plug? Any social media accounts or projects or anything? Okay if you don't, but
yeah, you don't have
well,
to.
you caught me way too early because it's in the making.
All right.
Like it's in the making. So maybe by the time we talk about Frozen 2, I'm just inviting myself back.
No, you're already booked.
It will be out. It will be out.
All right.
Awesome. Well, you can find almost said Glee Boot. Not My Fantasy. We're at Not My Fantasy Pod on Instagram and TikTok. And we're also on YouTube. Hello. Give us a comment, a like, subscribe, hit that like button,
hit that
smash
bell
that bell,
notification.
whatever people say on YouTube. And then also on like if you're listening on Spotify, just like head over to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review, leave us a note, just like let us know what you love about it and share us with your friends and family. Like, we want to find other awesome listeners who want to hear us talk about the stories and the lore behind the movies that we love or don't love. But in this case, we loved it.
We loved it. Send us a message, send us a review, let us know what you like, and because we're here for you guys. We want everyone to enjoy it. So
thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, this is an act of true love, this podcast.
It is. And Mara, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
This was so much fun.
Amazing.
I love the invite. I love talking about these things. And it's like, I've been telling you, it's not every day that I find someone that's so in love with fairy tales like I am, to the point to
Yeah.
study like we all did
Yeah.
right now. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
thank you.
Thank you. Tune in.
Next episode is going to legitimately be ancient Egyptian mythology. We promise. And if it's not, we're sorry again.
We're sorry.
I don't
We
know.
really tried. Each time we say it, we mean it. All right. See you then. Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
listeners.